Chapter 3004. Su Fang had encountered countless dangers in his life. In the future, there would be countless obstacles waiting for him on the path of cultivation. If he retreated every time he encountered danger, how could Su Fang have achieved what he had today? How could he reach the peak in the future? Cultivators should face difficulties head-on, kill gods, and cut through all obstacles. Hence, even if he lost this battle, Su Fang would not admit defeat without a fight. Hen Wuxiang, I admire you very much, but I have to say that you are very stupid at the same time. Since you are not willing to admit defeat, then fight me with all your might. It's a pity that I cannot fight you with my true abilities. Li Zhan sighed. In the next moment, he released his thoughts into the heaven-destroying spike floating above his head. In an instant, the heaven-destroying spike was activated, releasing a murderous aura and a ferocious aura that enveloped the entire area. The interior of the battle space turned into a world of killing. The murderous aura soared into the sky and the sky changed color. Vaguely, shouts of killing could be heard one after another. Some indistinct phantoms, exuding strong killing intent, flashed and disappeared in the world. Although there was a strong boundary outside the battle space, it was difficult to completely isolate the murderous aura released by the heaven-destroying spike from penetrating outside the boundary. The cultivators who were closer to the battle space all trembled in fear. Their Dao hearts and souls were trembling, as if they were facing a terrifying god of death that would kill everything. Those cultivators who were further away from the battle space were also trembling and their faces turned pale. Su Fang's divine light changed instantly. His entire body felt as if he had fallen into a cold world of death. His Dao heart was trembling slightly. He quickly gathered his thoughts and activated the formless heavenly wheels. In an instant, he formed a defensive light wheel in front of him. Qi. A ray of blood light was released from the heaven-destroying spike and condensed into a spike. It was originally only a foot long and was very illusory. In an instant, it traversed through space and transformed into a ferocious blood spike that was more than 1,000 feet long. It charged towards Su Fang. This blood spike's shadow revealed a murderous aura that would not stop until it killed Su Fang. It was unstoppable and unstoppable. Qi. The outermost yin-yang heavenly wheel of Su Fang was only able to block the blood spike for 3 breaths of time before it was torn apart and collapsed. The second light wheel was a formation created by Su Fang using his immortal soul spell body. He used the mantra of the formless heavenly wheel to form the heavenly wheel formation. The vast formation was connected to each other and operated continuously. Its defensive capabilities were incomparably strong. However, under the attacks of the blood spike phantoms, it was only able to resist for about 10 breaths of time before a crack appeared. The light wheel began to shatter, and the vast formation began to collapse. However, after being blocked one after another, the blood spike phantom shrank a lot and became a little more illusory. However, the residual power of the bloody thorn phantom was still astonishing. It tore apart the 9 suns heavenly wheel, the nature heavenly wheel, and the massacre heavenly wheel one after another. Then, it was completely exhausted, and dissipated in front of Su Fang. Su Fang's face turned pale and his aura became weak. Casting the formless heavenly wheel had depleted Su Fangda's mana, willpower, and energy. At the same time, the blood spike contained a frightening killing intent. It was unstoppable and attacked Su Fang's Dao heart and Dao palace. If not for Su Fang's 7 colors Vajra Dao heart and Jiuxuan Dao palace, this blood spike phantom would have severely injured him. He might even lose his Dao heart, and his consciousness would be wiped out by the killing intent. The heaven-destroying spike is indeed powerful. It is indeed the supreme Xian Bao that can kill a Dao saint. Su Fang was greatly shocked. The 5 divine tribes of the Middle Xian continent were indeed frightening. They actually possessed such a frightening treasure. At the same time, Su Fang also developed a good impression of Li Zhan. Cultivation was not about scheming. Cultivators should kill decisively, be open and aboveboard, and use their own abilities to flatten everything. They could not be considered true cultivators if they relied on their identities and schemes. Li Jian obviously had his reasons for using the heaven-destroying spike in this battle. He could secretly warn Su Fang, and this showed that he was not the same type of person as Yi Feishu and Long Tianci. Li Jian transmitted his immortal soul again. Hen Wuxiang, I only used a small part of the heaven-destroying spike's power just now. You should know how powerful this treasure is. Its sharpness is not something a Daolord cultivator can block. Hurry up and admit defeat while I still have a trace of consciousness. Continue fight. Su Fang shouted coldly, full of battle intent. It's a pity that I can't have a fair battle with you. Next, I will use all my strength to activate the heaven-destroying spike. You'll have to pray for yourself. Li Jian sighed, and the trace of clarity in his eyes was completely drowned by the crazed killing intent and ferocity. Then, he waved his hand and grabbed the heaven-destroying spike in his hand. His entire body fused with the heaven-destroying spike, and he became a peerless weapon. Then, he burned his immortal soul, and together with the heaven-destroying spike, he suddenly unleashed a majestic killing aura. A terrifying divine power that could kill everything in the world enveloped the entire battle space. Su Fang felt that his entire body was about to be pierced and torn apart. He was shocked and did not hesitate to activate the Blood Fury spell body to fuse with his physical body. At the same time, he activated the Jiuxuan Wuji Sutra. The heart of the powerful cultivator, Slayer, started to beat. His physical body and Tao Palace started to vibrate along with Slayer's heart. He immediately entered a very special state, as if he had fused with the heavenly Tao. What kind of abhijna is that? It can actually cause the heavenly Tao to resonate? In the battle space, Xianzheng's spell body felt something and looked at Su Fang in shock. The 30-odd Tao saints on the eastern altar also stretched their necks and stared at Su Fang. Tuo Qianji's heart was in turmoil. That is Slayer's heart. Slayer's heart was stolen by the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. How did it end up in Hen Wuxiang's hands? Who is Hen Wuxiang? Not only is he a 5-star divine lord of bloody slaughter, but he can also use Slayer's heart to resonate with the heavenly Tao? Qi. Li Jian was like a god of death. His body flashed and instantly shattered the void. He suddenly appeared in front of Su Fang. The heaven-destroying spike in his hand was only a few inches away from Su Fang's forehead. The sharp killing aura penetrated the defense of Su Fang's Tao Palace and was about to destroy his Tao Palace. Dong. It was as if the heavenly Tao's heart was beating. It was also as if the heavenly Tao's drums were beating. The sharp killing aura that shot out from the heaven-destroying spike was shattered by the sound of the heavenly Tao. Li Jian only needed to stab forward slightly to pierce through Su Fang's head. However, under the vibration of the sound of the heavenly Tao, not only was the heaven-destroying spike unable to move forward an inch, but he was also forced back by dozens of feet. The thick killing aura on his body was also shattered layer by layer. Kill! Li Jian let out a murderous roar. He activated the heaven-destroying spike again and attacked like a flash of lightning. Boom! Su Fang took a step forward. His body contained a mysterious rhythm that coincided with the rhythm of the heavenly Tao. Then, he punched out and hit the heaven-destroying spike. That Hen Wuxiang is crazy. He actually used his physical body to clash with the heaven-destroying spike? What kind of divine power did he use? How could he force Li Jian back? Crazy! Li Jian activated the heaven-destroying spike and entered a state of madness. That Hen Wuxiang is also a lunatic. The billions of cultivators all exclaimed and were shocked. The 8 geniuses on the west side of the spiritual altar all stood up and stared at Su Fang and Li Jian. Dong! Su Fang's body once again emitted the sound of the heavenly Tao. A boundless sound of the heavenly Tao erupted from his fist and collided with the heaven-destroying spike. Boom! Li Jian was forced back again. This time, he retreated 100 miles away. His physical body was shattered by the sound of the heavenly Tao. His skin cracked open and his flesh was mangled. The blood that flowed out was quickly devoured by the heaven-destroying spike, causing it to shine with a dazzling red light. Its murderous aura became even more shocking. Su Fang was also forced back dozens of miles. Cracks appeared on his physical body. Even the Hen Wuxiang mask on his face had horrifying wounds. Fresh blood flowed out. Some of the wounds on his body were caused by the heaven-destroying spike's murderous aura. Some were caused by the sound of the heavenly Tao. After all, he hadn't completely fused with Slaughter's heart. Activating Slaughter's heart and triggering the sound of the heavenly Tao put a huge burden on his physical body. Fortunately, his perfected physical body was extremely strong. The heaven-piercing blood king vine had fused with his physical body and permeated into every corner of his body like meridians, causing his physical body to become even stronger. If he was an ordinary Tao Lord, his physical body would have been crushed into meat paste by the sound of the heavenly Tao. Boom! 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 Li Jian activated the heaven-destroying spike again and again, tearing through the void and attacking Su Fang. Su Fang activated Slaughter's heart and released the sound of the heavenly Tao, clashing with Li Jian again and again. The battle space was constantly being shattered. The murderous aura and the spatial vibrations caused by the collision caused the entire battle space to fall into chaos. If Xianzheng hadn't used his divine aura to stabilize the battle space from time to time, it would have completely collapsed by now. This is too shocking. This isn't a battle between two Tao Lords. It's clearly two peerless powerhouses. What kind of abhijna is Hen Wuxiang using? He can actually fight against the Li clan's heaven-destroying spike and not be at a disadvantage at all? Even if it's a battle for first place, it's nothing more than this. Looks like both of them are going to suffer. Even if one of them wins, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. The cultivators outside the battle space were shocked to the core, and their hearts were in turmoil. On the west side of the altar, Hu Ditian stared fixedly at Su Fang. There was no longer any trace of arrogance on his face. His eyes were filled with shock. Dongxian Daoyan, Sima Xiaoxiao, and the others only realized now that Su Fang's ability was far beyond their imagination. Not only did he have the ability to be in the top 3, he also had the shocking ability to challenge first place. Hen Wuxiang's ability is actually so strong. It looks like there's no hope for revenge. Long Tianxi and Yi Feishu felt a wave of lingering fear amidst their shock. However, they felt more despair. Xishuan Tianqing stared at Su Fang. Other than surprise and shock, there was also a strong jealousy that couldn't be concealed. Boom! After another collision in the battle space, Su Fang and Li Jian separated abruptly. Li Jian had completely lost his consciousness and had sunk into madness. He was completely controlled by the heaven-destroying spike's murderous aura. Kill! He burned his thoughts and vitality again, preparing to activate the heaven-destroying spike with all his might. Su Fang's brows raised. Chapter 3005. Suddenly, in the battle space, Xianzheng's Dharmakaya shouted, "Everyone, stop!" Xianzheng's battle avatar released a wave of power that shackled Li Jian's body and Tao Palace. This made it difficult for Li Jian to activate the heaven-destroying spike or even gather his thoughts. Xianzheng then looked at Su Fang and said, "This battle is considered a draw. What do you think?" A draw? Su Fang was stunned. He did not expect Xianzheng to make such a judgment. Su Fang looked at Li Jian and nodded. "Since you have made such a judgment, how can I not follow?" Now, both he and Li Jian were injured. If they continued to fight, neither of them would have a good ending. Li Jian's consciousness might be controlled by the heaven-destroying spike's ferocious aura. Su Fang had no choice but to use his most powerful trump card. Once his primordial aura was used, it would be difficult to recover in a short period of time. Furthermore, Su Fang did not really want to kill Li Jian. Xian Zheng's sudden stop was exactly what Su Fang wanted. The Li clan's Dao Saint said unhappily, "Lord Xianzheng, the outcome of this battle has not been decided yet. How can you end it so hastily? Hen Wuxiang and Li Jian are both exceptional talents of the human race. How can I watch them both be injured? No matter who dies in the end, it is not what I want. I think you don't want Li Jian to be injured or die, right?" Xianzheng said. The supreme power of a half-step Daozu was fully displayed at this moment. What kind of person was Xianzheng? He naturally had his reasons for suddenly stopping the battle between Su Fang and Li Jian. Hen Wuxiang had the Dark Mother Daozu behind him, while Li Jian had the Li clan and the 5 god clans behind him. If Xianzheng wanted to become the leader of the human race, it was not enough to rely on his abilities and background. He needed the support of the Daozu and many other powers. He didn't want to offend either side. Letting Su Fang and Hen Wuxiang end the match in a draw was the best outcome. Xianzheng's words made the Li race Dao Saint speechless. He also looked at how badly injured Su Fang was and knew that he had lost the chance to fight for first with Hu Ditian. He had achieved his goal, so he didn't say anything more. At this moment, Li Jian quickly regained consciousness and cupped his fists towards Xianzheng. "Thank you, sir." Then, he looked at Su Fang, nodded and said, "Hen Wuxiang, you are very strong. You are beyond my imagination. Although this match is a draw, you have actually won. If there is a chance in the future, I will definitely fight you with my true strength. When the time comes, don't decline." "That's exactly what I was thinking." Su Fang agreed without hesitation. The two of them flew out of the battle space at the same time. Both of them were severely injured. The injuries on their bodies were shocking, and their auras were dispirited. What a pity! Hen Wuxiang had the ability to fight for first place, but he and Li Jian were both injured. He has completely lost the chance to fight for first place. Can't you see? The reason why Li Jian took out the Xian Bao, the sky-vanquishing thorn and injured Hen Wuxiang, was actually to clear the obstacle for Hu Ditian to fight for first place. Dongxian Daoyan is definitely not Hu Ditian's opponent. It looks like the top genius of Jiuxuan's heavens chosen this time will be Hu Ditian. Jiuxuan's heavens chosen has become a vanity fair for the 5 divine races to fight for power and profit. The other geniuses are just side characters. Billions of cultivators were discussing, but they didn't dare to make a sound. They were communicating with their primordial spirit. Not many of them were fools. It was not difficult to see the Li clan and Hu people's conspiracy. They felt sorry for Su Fang, but at the same time they were indignant. Su Fang had just sat down on the west side of the altar when Hu Ditian's domineering voice came. "Hen Wuxiang, I didn't expect you and Li Jian to be injured. It looks like I won't have the chance to crush you personally. What a pity." Yi Feishu's mocking voice came from the side as well. "Hen Wuxiang, no matter how strong you are, you were defeated by the 5 divine races' geniuses in the end. If it weren't for Lord Xianzheng's intentional protection, you would have been dead on the spot." Long Tianxi also let out a voice full of satisfaction. "You were beaten like a dog by the 5 divine races' geniuses and almost lost your life. How dare you mock me for being useless?" Su Fang smiled awkwardly and ignored the 3 of them. He released a strand of his consciousness and turned into a shadow while he entered the Fuyao cave. Carefully sensing his physical body, Dao Palace, and Dao Heart, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. This time, he was severely injured. After fusing with Slayer's heart and releasing the heavenly voice, his physical body was severely injured. His Dao Heart and Dao Palace were also shaken. The heaven-destroying spike was indeed powerful. When the shock waves from the collision hit Su Fang, his physical body, Dao Heart, and Dao Palace were also severely injured. All in all, Su Fang's entire body, from the inside out, was unscathed. The 5 divine races' resources are indeed shocking. Looking at the injuries on his body, Su Fang had a new understanding of the overall strength of the 5 divine races. At the same time, his hatred towards the 5 divine races of Middle Xian became even more intense. Hu Ditian, don't even think about getting first place in Jiuquan this time. Su Fang's deep eyes flashed with ruthlessness and determination. The purpose of this Jiuquan's god selection was to deal with the invasion of the other tribes and to select the future pillar of the human race, who might even become the leader of the human race. If Hu Ditian were to win first place in this Jiuquan's god selection, the Hu people and the 5 divine races would undoubtedly be like tigers that had grown wings. The 5 divine races would definitely use this opportunity to infiltrate other divine regions and forces. With the domineering nature of the 5 divine races of Middle Xian, Su Fang would not be able to stand out even if he had the support of Shi Xian's Daozu. Sooner or later, he would die in the hands of the 5 divine races. Therefore, Su Fang would stop Hu Ditian at all costs. Dongxian Daoyan's ability was extraordinary, but it was difficult for him to defeat Hu Ditian. Su Fang could only count on himself to recover quickly and fight Hu Ditian in the end. Everyone thinks that I'm heavily injured and can't fight anymore. Who knows that I can recover so quickly in such a short time? Su Fang had the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan and mastered the art of yang reversal. In addition, his injury this time did not consume his lifespan like before, so his recovery speed was naturally astonishing. Su Fang took out medicinal pills and spiritual items, and at the same time, let the heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan devour the vitality of the Chrysalis tribe's cultivators' corpses. At the same time, he cast the art of yang reversal in the chrono formation to seep pure mystical yang qi into his physical body and accelerate the recovery of his vitality. Sizzle! Sizzle! The heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan's blood seeped into the corpses of the Chrysalis tribe's cultivators and heartbreakers' body, gathering into their bodies like streams and turning into rivers that surged within their bodies. The mystical Yang Dharma body also merged its mystical Yang Qi with its physical body, the flame of vitality burning within Su Fang's body. The external and internal injuries on his physical body healed at an astonishing speed under the flame of vitality. The remaining heaven-piercing Blood King Rattan's sharp aura in his body was also forcefully refined. Just as Su Fang was recovering with all his might, Dongxian Daoyan and Hu Ditian were engaged in an earth-shattering battle. Su Fang, Dongxian Daoyan, and Hu Ditian had never met in the top 10 battle. Once this round was over, the two of them would have to fight each other. Therefore, Dongxian Daoyan and Hu Ditian had to fight each other in this round. Otherwise, there would be a lianzhan in the next 2 rounds. Everyone thought that this was the Battle of Jiuquan's number 1 that had been prematurely staged. Dongxian Daoyan, the number 1 in Jiuquan belongs to me. You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot when you try to stop me. You'll be crushed into pieces. Hu Ditian's aura was like the wrath of heaven and earth. Even the boundary of the dual space could not stop him. The cultivators within 1,000 feet radius of the dual space felt as if their hearts were about to jump out of their throat. Billions of cultivators looked at Hu Ditian, their eyes filled with respect, shock, and fear towards the strong. You'll have to get past me if you want to be the number 1 in Jiuquan. Dongxian Daoyan stood tall, his indifferent tone laced with a murderous aura. Dongxian Daoyan, you're indeed extraordinary. However, you're only a stumbling block to me. I'll kick you away and use you as my stepping stone to reach the highest peak. Hu Ditian's domineering voice was still echoing in the air as a shocking dominating will erupted and enveloped the area. Hu Ditian had visualized his will into a world, and he was the only dominator between heaven and earth. Illusory wills appeared in the world and bowed to him like subjects worshipping their emperor. Your dominating Tao can't overwhelm me. Dongxian Daoyan sneered and released 3,000 wills that turned into 3,000 worlds and collided with Hu Ditian's dominating will. The two geniuses no longer hid anything and used their most powerful technique. Rumble! Worlds crumbled one after another as earth-shattering scenes played out. When they saw this, even those Dao saints were shocked. Whether it's Dongxian Daoyan or Hu Ditian, their future is limitless. They'll be Dao saints at the very least. If they're nurtured with all their might, they might even become the supreme Daozu. Daozu? The human Daozu of the 9 divine realms. The purpose of holding the Jiuxuans chosen of heaven this time isn't just to nurture a Daozu, it's to select a peerless genius who might surpass the Daozu. Surpass the Daozu? The strongest of the humans is the Daozu, but the Daozu is already standing at the pinnacle of Dao. How can he nurture such a person? The humans don't have someone who can surpass the Daozu, but the other races do. This is also the reason why we've been repeatedly invaded by the other races. That's a legendary existence. It's too far away. Even with the entire human race's strength, we can't find such a peerless genius and nurture him into one of those legendary existences. The Dao saints conversed secretly, discussing the secrets of the human race that ordinary cultivators would never know. The billions of cultivators held their breaths as they stared at Dongxian Daoyan and Hu Ditian, their eyes filled with shock. The two geniuses' battle lasted for 3 days. It was obvious that both of them had given it their all. Dongxian Daoyan is indeed the peerless genius most likely to inherit the supreme Daozu's position in the Eastern Divine Realm. He's qualified for me to use my strongest technique. Chapter 3006. Hu Ditian threw out the yellow Xian Guang with a wave of his hand. It hovered above Dongxian Daoyan's head, revealing a Xian bow that looked like an imperial seal. The imperial seal was only half a foot square, releasing a bright yellow Xian Guang. It exuded an aura of supremacy and contained a cold, murderous aura. The aura it exuded made one feel like they were facing the supreme Tao of heaven, as if the supreme authority of the Tao of heaven was concentrated on this imperial seal. Once the Xian Bao was revealed, the billions of cultivators were shocked. A sense of reverence rose from the bottom of their hearts. Some cultivators below the level of Daoist Lord could not help but want to bow to the imperial seal. The Jiuxuan Dao Saint powerhouses on the east side of the altar looked solemn as well. There were also people who exclaimed in shock. The imperial seal of destiny? The Hu people actually gave such a Xian Bao to Hu Ditian. I heard that the imperial seal of destiny was a piece of unpolished jade that Hu people experts found in the depths of chaos. It was a supreme Xian Bao that was refined with the blood and souls of millions of emperors, as well as the will of countless realm lords and experts who cultivated the Tao of dominion. It could even suppress a Tao saint when fully unleashed. With Hu Ditian's ability, he can at most unleash 1/10 of the imperial seal's power. It's enough to defeat Dongxian Daoyan. There's no doubt about the battle of Jiuxuan's top genius now. The Dao Saint powerhouses conversed in secret. They were all shocked and thought that Dongxian Daoyan would lose without a doubt. Hu Ditian looked at Dongxian Daoyan and shouted domineeringly, "Dongxian Daoyan, I have the imperial seal of destiny. There's no way you can defeat me. Admit defeat quickly." The imperial seal of destiny. I didn't expect the Hu people to give this treasure to you. It's obvious that the Hu people are determined to be the top genius of Jiuxuan. I know that I'm no match for you, but I'll give it my all. Dongxian Daoyan knew how powerful the imperial seal was, but he still refused to recognize it. He took out an Xian Bao. It was a rusty bronze cauldron that gave off an ancient and weathered aura. Judging from its aura, although it was not as majestic as the imperial seal, it was still extraordinary. Great Yen Divine Furnace? Hu Ditian was taken aback for a moment before he sneered disdainfully. This seat has long heard of the fame of the Eastern Profound Heavenly Pavilion's Great Yen Divine Furnace. It uses the chaos of heaven and earth as a furnace and the evolution of the heavenly Tao as fire to refine all things. It is also a powerful Xian Bao of the Jiuxuan Divine Domain, but compared to this seat's imperial seal, it is still a little lacking. As soon as he finished speaking, Hu Detian's forehead split open, and an aura poured out and entered the heavenly fate imperial seal. Buzz buzz buzz. The imperial jade seal trembled and quickly expanded to a size of 1,000 feet. The 4 blood-red divine characters on it could be seen clearly. Worship the heavens and suppress the Tao. Under the orders of the heavenly Tao, they suppressed the heavens and the earth. They were dignified and domineering, and they stood above everything. Boom! The dazzling yellow Xian Guang enveloped the entire combat space. The blood-red divine characters shone from the heavenly fate imperial seal and pressed towards Dongxian Daoyan with a terrifying divine power that could seal everything. Dongxian Daoyan activated the divine nullification cauldron as well. A vast, ancient aura filled the cauldron and enveloped the surroundings. Then, a power that could refine everything in the world attempted to refine the imperial seal. Boom! 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 2 powerful forces collided. One wanted to suppress everything while the other wanted to refine everything. The result of the collision was naturally shocking. It felt like the heavens and the earth were shattering. Even Xian Zheng's avatar had to defend himself to avoid being affected. At the same time, he had to stabilize the combat space. After a dozen breaths, the 2 Xian Bao were in a stalemate. Hu Detian opened his mouth and blew a gust of air into the heavenly fate imperial seal. The heavenly fate imperial seal's power soared, shattering the great Yen divine furnace's divine power layer by layer. Finally, it crumbled and the furnace turned into a Xian Guang that burrowed into Dongxian Daoyan's body. Dongxian Daoyan was also affected by the aftershock. He was severely injured and spat out blood. Cracks appeared on his Dao heart as well. Hu Detian, you've won. Dongxian Daoyan cried out bitterly. Xian Zheng grabbed Dongxian Daoyan out of the combat space with a wave of his hand and sent him back to the altar on the west side. Then, he announced loudly, Hu Detian wins. Once the announcement was made, hundreds of millions of cultivators cried out in shock and surprise. It was like spring thunder that swept through the entire space. In everyone's opinion, Hu Detian's victory over Dongxian Daoyan meant that he was the first in Jiuquan's chosen one. How shocking and honored was it to be able to personally witness the birth of the number 1 genius in the 9 profound divine domain. How could they not be extremely excited? At this moment, Hu Detian seemed to be shrouded in a dazzling halo that shone brightly, earning the respect of everyone. Under countless gazes filled with respect, envy, and even admiration, and hearing the cheers, Hu Detian felt like he was floating. The domineering aura of having the world under his control rose spontaneously. Being the first in Jiuquan is my first step. The foreign tribes are about to invade the human race. Chaos is imminent. It's time for our race to rise. I, Hu Detian, will step onto the highest peak of the human race. I will lead my race, the entire human race, and become the supreme ruler and leader of the human race. Hu Detian took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in him. He regained his calm and dominating aura and slowly flew to the west side of the altar under everyone's watchful eyes. Congratulations, Dao Child Di Tian. Yi Feishu, Long Tianxi, and the rest went up to congratulate Hu Detian. Xishuan Tianqing hid the jealousy in his eyes and went up to congratulate him as well. On the east side of the altar, many Dao saints also congratulated the Hu people's Dao saint, Hu Pe. Being praised by everyone, Hu Pe laughed proudly. His laughter reverberated in the air for a long time. Wine Saint Tua Qianji and the other Dao saints turned pale when they heard Hu Pe's laughter. His laughter was extremely ear-piercing. At this moment, the first place of Jiuquan's heavens chosen was already set in stone. The following battles between the geniuses were much less intense. Many cultivators were still immersed in the battle between Hu Detian and Dongxian Daoyan, while the other Dao saints were secretly communicating. Some shady deals were quickly made in secret. Su Fang was still inside Fuyao's cave, recovering as fast as he could. The 7th round of the top 10 competition soon came to an end. After 10 years of rest, the geniuses and billions of cultivators focused their attention on the other rankings. The 8th round of the top 10 competition begins. Hen Wuxiang, come up and choose your opponent. Xianzheng looked at the west side of the altar and said to Su Fang. Su Fang came out of Fuyao's cave. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless gazes fell on Su Fang. Su Fang looked like he had recovered from his injuries, but his breath was extremely weak. His face was pale, and he looked like he would collapse at any moment. Some people sneered disdainfully, while others were disappointed. Su Fang, give up on the next 2 matches. Xu Wanjin secretly transmitted her thoughts to Su Fang. Su Fang replied without batting an eyelid, Senior sister, I have my own plans. Flying into the battle space, Su Fang looked at Dongxian Daoyan and said, Dongxian Daoyan, I challenge you. No one was surprised by Su Fang's choice. He only had 2 opponents left, Hu Ditian and Dongxian Daoyan. In his current state, the result would be the same no matter who he chose. There should be a fierce battle between Hen Wuxiang and Dongxian Daoyan for the 2nd place. Hen Wuxiang should admit defeat immediately. He has 6 wins and 1 draw now, while Dongxian Daoyan has 6 wins and 1 loss. However, Dongxian Daoyan still has to face a weak opponent, while Hen Wuxiang has to face Hu Ditian. No matter who wins or loses, Hen Wuxiang can only be 3rd. The crowd discussed among themselves, thinking that Su Fang had no choice but to admit defeat. At least he could save his face. Dongxian Daoyan entered the battle space. Su Fang suddenly spoke to him telepathically. Dongxian Daoyan, admit defeat for this match. I admit defeat? Dongxian Daoyan looked at Su Fang in shock. If you don't want Hu Ditian to be first, admit defeat immediately. I still have hope of taking the 1st place from Hu Ditian. If you insist on fighting me, I will still take this match, but then I won't have much confidence in defeating Hu Ditian. You've recovered in such a short time. Dongxian Daoyan was shocked. After the 8th round, I have another 10 years of rest. Using the mobile residence, I can at least recover to 80% of my condition. Although I don't have full confidence in defeating Hu Ditian, I have the ability to fight him. Why should I believe you? Besides, even if you defeat Hu Ditian, what good will it do me? Suddenly, a majestic voice rang in Dongxian Daoyan's head. Daoyan, I admit defeat for this match. Master. Dongxian Daoyan was shocked, but he said immediately, Yes, Master. I admit defeat for this match. Dongxian Daoyan looked at Su Fang. His eyes filled with confusion before he nodded and said, Gasp. Everyone was not surprised at all. Waves of astonished exclamations rose and fell one after another. Even Xianzheng looked at Dongxian Daoyan in shock, and then at Su Fang, looking thoughtful. Strange, why did Dongxian Daoyan admit defeat? It doesn't make sense. Could it be that Hen Wuxiang is planning to have a final battle with Hu Ditian? If Hen Wuxiang defeats Hu Ditian in the end, he can take the 1st place, but can Hen Wuxiang defeat Hu Ditian? Even if Hen Wuxiang is in his peak condition, he can't possibly fight for the 1st place with Hu Ditian. What's more, he's severely injured now. He's no threat to Hu Ditian. No matter what, the battle for the 1st place of Jiuxuan's chosen hasn't been settled yet. Anything is possible. Everyone was discussing, confused by Dongxian Daoyan's actions. Even if Su Fang defeated Dongxian Daoyan, it would be difficult for him to compete with Hu Ditian. It was meaningless. It was no wonder people were so surprised. However, there were also some people who had a glimmer of hope, hoping that Su Fang could create a miracle in the final match. Su Fang returned to the altar on the west side. Hu Ditian's sharp gaze swept over him before he spoke in a domineering tone. You have a chance to take the 1st place from me in the final match. I hope you won't admit defeat then. I won't disappoint you. Anything is possible, isn't it? Chapter 3007. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. The 9th round of the 9 Profound Heavens Selection Grand Finals was also the final round. It had finally arrived under everyone's anticipation. Su Fang was still the first to fight. He flew into the battle space, attracting the attention of hundreds of millions of cultivators. Sensing that Su Fang's aura was still as weak as before, many people were greatly disappointed. How much can he recover in a mere 10 years, even if he has a mobile abode? Hen Wuxiang didn't admit defeat immediately. He's overestimating himself. Hu Ditian is firmly in first place. There's no doubt about it. Not just the hundreds of millions of cultivators, but even the Dao Saint powerhouses on the eastern altar thought the same. Hu Ditian, come up. Su Fang looked at Hu Ditian on the western altar and said indifferently. Su Fang had no other choice in this battle. His only opponent was Hu Ditian. Hen Wuxiang, I hope you won't admit defeat immediately. Hu Ditian let out a long laugh and slowly descended from the west side of the spell altar into the battle space. Hu Ditian will definitely win this battle. The number one genius of Jiuxuan will definitely be Hu Ditian. Countless cultivators cheered and looked at Hu Ditian with awe and shock. It was a stark contrast to the coldness of Su Fang's appearance. Hu Ditian was like an emperor, standing 1,000 miles away from Su Fang with his hands behind his back. He looked at Su Fang from afar and said in a lofty voice, Hen Wuxiang, I only need 10 breaths to crush you under my feet. His domineering voice echoed in the battle space, causing another round of applause. 10 breaths? Hu Ditian thinks too highly of Hen Wuxiang. Why would you need 10 breaths to crush him? Long Tianci looked at Su Fang, his eyes filled with delight. Yi Feishu was also filled with joy. I hope that it won't end too early. Let Hu Ditian teach him a lesson and let Hen Wuxiang know that the peerless geniuses of the 5 great divine clans are not to be trifled with. Dongxian Huidao said coldly, You two trash only dare to talk behind your backs. When Hen Wuxiang stepped on your heads, why didn't you even dare to fart? Again? Together? Mouth? Bieningya Qin Jiao? Boxworm? Chong? Yi Feishu and Long Tianci were speechless, not daring to say another word. Dongxian Daoyan ignored the two of them and looked at Su Fang. His eyes were filled with doubt and a glimmer of hope. Hearing Hu Ditian's words, Su Fang smirked disdainfully. When I step on your head, you'll know how ignorant and laughable your current arrogance will be. It's hard to find a genius who can step on my head in the human world. I'm that pinnacle figure. Who do you think you are, Hen Wuxiang? How dare you speak so arrogantly? Prison of the Emperor's heart. Suppress. Hu Ditian bellowed in a domineering manner and performed the Tao of Dominators' will visualization. In an instant, a dark cage condensed from the power of will appeared above Su Fang's head and fell on Su Fang. The cage was eerie. There was no energy or divine aura, but it exuded an aura of conspiracy and trickery. It wanted to sink Su Fang's heart into endless schemes and intrigue, causing Su Fang to tremble in fear. An emperor in the mortal world could control his subjects and become the ruler of his people. The most important method was the emperor's mind trick. He could manipulate his subjects and people in the palm of his hand to ensure that his throne was as stable as a rock. The cage formed by Hu Ditian's will visualization technique had an extremely similar ability to the emperor's heart arts of the mortal world. Once one fell into the cage, it would cause the enemy's heart to sink into an illusion formed from countless schemes and schemes, shackling their Tao heart. Using schemes and scheming to kill was much more powerful than strength. This was the terrifying aspect of Hu Ditian's will visualization art, the Imperial Heart Prison. Any trickery and trickery will turn into ashes under absolute power. Crimson Prison Soul Slaying Saber. Su Fang dared not be careless. When the cage descended, a powerful killing intent erupted with a single thought. A crimson light that could only be seen by the nascent spirit swept out. A man in a crimson robe rose from it and slashed upwards with the crimson saber in his hand. Swoosh! The crimson light that exuded a terrifying killing intent swept out like a long river. It shattered the shackles of the Emperor's dungeon and landed on the cage, shattering it into pieces. I don't care what trickery you're using, I'll break it with a single slash of my saber. Su Fang's crimson blood avatar had merged with the heart of the foreign tribe expert, Slayer. Although it was still at the height of a 5-star divine lord of bloody slaughter and had yet to completely merge with Slayer's heart, it allowed Su Fang's killing intent to soar by tenfold. His saber slashed apart Hu Detian's will attack. The crimson saber light's power did not diminish as it slashed towards Hu Detian. What a powerful willpower visualization technique! Hu Detian raised his eyebrows. His divine light changed slightly as a supreme sovereign's will erupted and shattered the crimson saber light. Why does Hen Wuxiang's will visualization technique feel so familiar? Sima Xiaoxiao, Dongxian Hui Huang, and the other cultivators from the Eastern Xian divine realm were all shocked. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. They were not shocked by how powerful Su Fang's bloody hell soul-slaying saber was. Instead, they thought of Su Fang from this attack. Tuo Qianji and the other 3 Dao saints, who were hosting the finals of the Blood Valley, were all shocked. Bloody hell's soul-slaying saber? Is Hen Wuxiang really Su Fang? Tuo Qianji was even more puzzled and suspicious of Su Fang's true identity. Su Fang looked at Hu Detian and said mockingly, "You suppressed me in 10 breaths? It seems that 10 breaths have passed. Hu Detian, are you slapping your own face?" Hu Detian smiled casually. "It looks like your recovery is better than I thought. However, if you think that you have the right to be arrogant in front of me, it's really laughable. Letting you stay in this battle space is just to make you suffer a heavier blow." As soon as he finished speaking, 1,000 thoughts were released and quickly turned into an imperial jade seal that was 1,000 feet large. However, it was not an imperial jade seal, but an abhijna created by thoughts. Its divine power was not as powerful as the imperial jade seal, but it was still shocking. Its vast will and dermic powers instantly enveloped the surroundings and dominated Su Fang and everything in the surrounding space. It wanted to force Su Fang to kneel down and submit. Su Fang released 3 shapeless heavenly wheels, which clashed with Hu Detian's divine power and caused earth-shattering explosions. The shapeless heavenly wheels and the imperial jade seal were all shattered and disappeared. "Hen Wuxiang, you are not injured?" Hu Detian was finally shocked and his eyes flashed with disbelief. Whoosh! Billions of cultivators were exclaiming. Hen Wuxiang was obviously severely injured in the battle with Li Zhan. How could he have recovered so quickly? Was he not injured at all before, or did he use more than 20 years to recover to his peak condition? No matter which one it is, it shows how extraordinary Hen Wuxiang is. No wonder Dongxian Dao Yan admitted defeat directly. He wanted Hen Wuxiang to preserve his abilities and fight with Hu Detian for first place. It's still hard to say who will be first. There's going to be a good show to watch now. Many of the cultivators had originally thought that the first place would be Hu Detian. They did not expect that things would not develop as they had imagined. While they were surprised and shocked, they were all energized and focused their attention on the battle space. The Dao Saints and the other top 10 geniuses were also surprised. Some of them even had a feeling that it would not be easy for Hu Detian to win first place. Xianjing stared at Su Fang and his deep eyes shone with a sharp light. He wanted to see through Su Fang. However, Su Fang seemed to be shrouded in a layer of fog and was difficult to see through. Not only had the mask Hen Wuxiang changed Su Fang's aura, Shi Xian Daozu had also secretly covered everything for Su Fang. Naturally, Xianjing could not see anything. "Hen Wuxiang, you've really surprised me. However, this does not change anything. You can't take away the first place that belongs to me. Everything you've done is just to prove my rise." Hu Detian quickly returned to normal. He was still as domineering as ever. "Suppress. Hu Detian released his thoughts once more, and it condensed into a tall phantom that wore a yellow robe and a crown on its head, and it charged towards Su Fang with the bearing of a sovereign that looked down upon the world. 9 Suns Celestial Wheel. Nature Celestial Wheel. Massacre Celestial Wheel. Su Fang used the formless celestial wheel and condensed light wheels that rolled towards the Emperor's shadow. Boom, boom, boom. The Emperor's shadow carried an unstoppable aura as it charged forward forcefully and domineeringly. It struck out with a domineering and ferocious fist technique. A series of earth-shaking collisions sounded as if the heavens and earth were falling apart. The 3 light wheels were shattered by the Emperor's shadow. In the chaotic airflow, the Emperor's shadow stepped out and grabbed at Su Fang. Su Fang felt as if the entire space was about to be torn apart. My master's 10 directions seal. Su Fang did not hide anything at this time. He released 9 thoughts and directly used the My Master's 10 Directions seal. The supreme power that ruled all directions, the past and the future, enveloped the Emperor's shadow and Hu Detian in an instant. It turned into a world that was under the absolute control of Su Fang. The Emperor's shadow trembled under the power of the My Master's 10 Directions seal and was unable to control itself. What kind of abhijna is this? Hu Detian's eyebrows rose as he activated his thoughts. The Emperor's shadow started to burn and exploded with an even more shocking aura as it attempted to shatter the shackles around it. Break! Su Fang shouted domineeringly. The power of the My Master's 10 Directions seal completely exploded and crushed the Emperor's shadow. Hu Detian's thoughts were also shattered. That is the supreme abhijna that Su Fang obtained in the Shirua Valley, the My Master's 10 Directions seal. Su Fang. Hatred Wuxiang is Su Fang? Impossible. How can Su Fang be hatred Wuxiang? The cultivators who had seen Su Fang use the My Master's 10 Directions seal cried out in shock. Chapter 3008. In order to win over the Hu people and the Yi clan, Xianzheng had decided to strip Su Fang of his right to participate in the Jiuquan Heavens chosen finals. It was no different from handing Su Fang over to the Hu people and the Yi clan. At that time, Xianzheng had thought that Su Fang was only a genius with some talent, so it was fine to abandon him. At most, he would feel some regret. However, at this moment, if Hen Wuxiang was really Su Fang, it would be a heavy blow to Xianzheng's reputation. Even if he had the support of the Zhongxian 5 divine families, how could he convince the masses to become the future leader of the human race? What was even more ridiculous was that he had actually planned to win over Su Fang for his own use. Xianzheng felt a burning sensation on his face as a ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. He sent a message to Hu Detian with his divine sense. Hu Detian, you can kill in this battle. Hu Detian was stunned, then smiled faintly. The corners of his lips curled up into a smile that was filled with murderous intent. Tua Qianji, do you think that Hen Wuxiang is Su Fang? Wine Saint was also unsure as he secretly sent a message to Tua Qianji. What do you think, Lord Wine Saint? It's possible. Who would have thought that after Xianzheng stripped him of his right to participate in the Jiuquan Heavens chosen finals, he actually changed his identity and entered the top 10. He even fought with Hu Detian for first place. Lord Wine Saint, don't be happy too early. If Hen Wuxiang is really Su Fang, how can Xianzheng and the 5 divine families let him go? Su Fang dares to participate in the Jiuquan Heavens chosen finals. Naturally, he has a way to deal with all the troubles. When the time comes, I'm afraid that Xianzheng and the 5 divine families won't be able to clean up the mess. Hen Wuxiang is Su Fang. Dongxian Huihuang, Kueiziu, and the rest looked at Su Fang in the dual space, their minds buzzing. They could not accept the fact that Hen Wuxiang was Su Fang. If it's really that bastard Su Fang, Sima Xiao stared at Su Fang as her ears burned. She had once told Hen Wuxiang that the person she admired was Su Fang. How could she endure this? Long Tianci said to Yi Feishu in disbelief. Could that Hen Wuxiang really be Su Fang? Yi Feishu's eyes were filled with resentment. If he's really Su Fang, that would be the best. This time, he won't be able to escape from the suppression of the 5 great god tribes. Dongxian Dao Yen was struck by a sudden realization. No wonder Master wanted me to lose to Hen Wuxiang. So Master knew that Hen Wuxiang was Su Fang and hoped that he could create a miracle. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Billions of cultivators were discussing this matter. Who's Su Fang? Dongxuan's #1 genius, because he killed Hu people's only son, Hu Yufei, and Yi clan's young mistress, Yi Fian. He was disqualified from the Jiuxuan Heaven selection by the Board of Elders. Crazy, this child is crazy indeed. He even dared to kill the Hu people and Yi clan's disciples. After being disqualified, he actually changed his identity to participate in the Jiuxuan Heaven's selection. This time, the Board of Elders and the 5 great god tribes will be slapped in the face. Whether Hen Wuxiang is Su Fang or not, we can't be sure yet. Let's wait and see. Whether he is or not, there's a good show to watch this time. Hu Ditian stared at Su Fang and said in a cold voice, "Whether you're Su Fang or not, I'm going to suppress you this time. If you're Su Fang, it'll be even better. I'll settle the old score of you killing Hu Yufei." Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Hu Ditian released his avatars one after another. There were a total of 7 avatars, each wearing an emperor's robe of different colors: yellow, red, black, purple, white, gold, and silver. The aura they exuded was different as well. Hu Ditian shouted coldly, "I've cultivated 7 avatars in total. They are the Wisdom Emperor, the Slaughter Emperor, the Tyrant Emperor, the Vicious Emperor, the War Emperor, the Evil Emperor, and the Holy Emperor. Each avatar has extraordinary abilities. There has never been a Daolord cultivator qualified to make me use my avatar's abilities. Even Dongxuan's Dao Yen isn't qualified to fight with my avatars. Hen Wuxiang, you should feel honored. You're only forced to use 7 avatars because you can't use the Imperial Seal anymore. How dare you boast so shamelessly?" Su Fang sneered disdainfully, but he was shocked inwardly. He didn't expect Hu Ditian to have cultivated 7 avatars, and all of them were of the Tao of Dominion. As long as I can suppress you, who cares what kind of skill or technique he has? Die, Hen Wuxiang. Hu Ditian waved his arm, and the 7 avatars charged towards Su Fang. Each of the 7 Dharmakayas had different abilities. The Wisdom Emperor's ability was similar to the Emperor's heart cage. He held the Pearl of Wisdom in his hand, and was filled with the aura of politics and conspiracy. The Slaughter Emperor was like the Blood Demon Avatar. He was filled with killing intent, but he also had the domineering aura of dominating life and death. The Tyrant Emperor had the aura of a supreme dominator that could dominate the heavens and earth. The Vicious Emperor was like a ferocious god that had descended to the mortal realm. The War Emperor was majestic in his golden armor. The Evil Emperor was filled with evil energy, and the Holy Emperor was sacred and majestic, making all living beings worship him. When the 7 avatars appeared, the battle space instantly turned into the world of emperors. Swoosh, swoosh. Su Fang released his Heavenly Path Avatar, Violet Fate Avatar, Profound Yellow Avatar, Blood Demon Avatar, Primordial Spirit Avatar, and Profound Yang Avatar. Together with his physical body, they charged towards Hu Ditian's 7 avatars. His physical body displayed the supreme eye of future, the heavenly divination solution, and engaged in a battle of wills and minds with Hu Ditian's Wisdom Emperor Avatar. No matter how powerful the Wisdom Emperor Avatar was, Su Fang easily neutralized it with the heavenly divination solution. The Profound Yang Avatar displayed the extreme Tao Mystic Yang technique. The Profound Yang celestial aura could restrain all evil energy, allowing the Profound Yang Avatar to suppress Hu Ditian's Evil Emperor Avatar. The Violet Fate Avatar continuously devoured the fortune of Hu Ditian's Holy Emperor Avatar, causing the Holy Emperor Avatar to lose its dignity. the other avatars were also fighting and killing each other. An unprecedented battle unfolded in the battle space. That's Su Fang! Hen Wuxiang, it's really Su Fang. Su Fang's avatar had completely exposed his identity. The cultivators from Dongxian and the geniuses who had fought with Su Fang exclaimed in surprise. Xian Zheng's eyes were brimming with icy killing intent. Hu Po, the Yi clan's Dao Saint, and the other experts of the 5 divine families, as well as their disciples and cultivators, were also filled with murderous intent. They secretly deployed their experts to make sure Su Fang couldn't escape this time. Haha, Su Fang didn't disappoint me indeed. Wine Saint guffawed, feeling extremely pleased. Hearing his laughter, Xishuan Tianqing also understood that the disciple Daozu had taken in Dongxian was Su Fang, the one who had defeated him, Hen Wuxiang. My talent and ability are indeed not as good as Su Fang's. No wonder Master favors him so much. Xishuan Tianqing's feelings could be imagined. Jealousy, anger, indignation, all kinds of conflicting emotions were present. Dongxian, Hui Huang, and Kueiziu were even more embarrassed. They had been grateful to Su Fang for saving Dongxian, Hui Huang, and preventing him from being humiliated. Now that Hen Wuxiang had turned into Su Fang, their feelings were extremely complicated. Dongxian Daoyan, Dongxian Wuhan, Dongxian Lai, and the other top geniuses of Dongxian Pavilion were also shocked. In their hearts, Su Fang was just a genius with outstanding talent. Compared to them, Su Fang was far from them. Now that Su Fang had reached such heights and was even above them, how could they not be shocked and surprised? Gu Tianqi, Xu Chongxiao, and the other cultivators from Dongxian began to chant Su Fang's name in their excitement and shock. Many of the hundreds of millions of cultivators in the entire space were also chanting Su Fang's name. Everyone knew about the domineering nature of Zhongshuan's 5 divine tribes. Now that an ordinary cultivator had suddenly appeared and dared to challenge the 5 divine tribes' prestige and compete with Hu Ditian for the first place of Jiushuan, the crowd was naturally in high spirits and cheered for Su Fang. Su Fang and Hu Ditian's avatars were still fighting fiercely. The first to succumb was Hu Ditian's Wisdom King avatar. Exhausted, his thoughts and will crumbled, and his avatar began to shatter as well. Then, it was the Evil King avatar. Suppressed by Su Fang's mystical yang force, the evil aura of the Evil King avatar was on the verge of death as it shattered layer by layer. Su Fang's Purple Fate avatar had also devoured the Sacred Emperor avatar's providence, losing its sacred and majestic aura. Break! Su Fang's Crimson Fury avatar activated Slayer's heart abruptly, releasing a terrifying murderous intent, and the sound of heavens will like the rumbling of a heavenly drum. Slayer's avatar that was fighting Crimson Fury avatar crumbled under the impact of the sound of heaven's will and the murderous aura, turning into pieces that shot out in all directions. Su Fang, how dare you destroy my avatars? You and I are irreconcilable. Hu Ditian's physical body let out a thunderous roar and kept the remaining 6 avatars into his Taoist palace. Su Fang kept his 6 avatars as well and sneered at Hu Ditian. Didn't you say you wanted to step on my head? Why aren't you so arrogant now? Su Fang, I swear I'll kill you. Heavenly Imperial Seal, suppress. Hu Ditian activated the Heavenly Imperial Seal in a fit of rage. In the battle with Dongxian Daoyan, Hu Ditian had exhausted too much of his magical power by activating the Heavenly Imperial Seal. This was also the reason why his 7 avatars were no match for Su Fang. He activated the Heavenly Imperial Seal once again, planning to stake everything on this one attack. Boom! The Heavenly Imperial Seal released a yellow Xian Guang, its divine aura enveloping the surroundings and shackling Su Fang within the world. Illusory figures of intent that could not be seen with the naked eye condensed continuously from the world. They were densely packed and charged towards Su Fang like a tidal wave. The heavenly imperial seal was a supreme xian bo refined by Hu people's experts by absorbing the blood and intent of countless emperors and cultivators who cultivated the Tao of domination. These illusory figures of intent were the xian bo that came from those emperors and cultivators, immortal and indestructible. Su Fang was shackled by the heavenly imperial seal's divine aura. The divine aura began to shrink under the pressure of the terrifying intent and was about to be swallowed by the countless illusory figures of intent. Chapter 3009. Countless willpower phantoms instantly engulfed Su Fang. Just as Hu Ditian was feeling proud, the Hu people's divine sage, Hu Po, suddenly shouted, "Be careful, Su Fang has mastered the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. He can restrain fate and wills. The heavenly fate imperial seal's wills cannot threaten him." Su Fang had once used the heavenly secret life shrinking technique to kill Hu Yufei. Hu Po naturally knew about this. Seeing that Hu Ditian was getting carried away, he quickly reminded him. Hu Ditian instantly shivered. His body was filled with coldness. His previous pride instantly disappeared. The wine sage sneered at Hu Po. "Hu Po, why don't you go and replace Hu Ditian?" Hu Po snorted coldly and did not say anything else. At this moment, Su Fang had already started to use the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. He chanted the profound and incomparably profound essence of the great Tao through the heavenly fate avatar's primordial spirit. An illusory aura of Tao runes swept out from Su Fang's Jiuxuan Tao palace and surged towards the wills that had already engulfed him. Chi chi chi. It felt like a group of moths flying towards a raging fire. The wills that came out from the heavenly fate imperial seal's divine power started to burn the moment they came into contact with the aura of Tao runes. In an instant they were burned to ashes. The heavenly secret life shrinking technique was above all living beings. It controlled fate and crushed all wills. Its power was just so domineering. In the time it took for sparks to fly off a piece of flint, Tao runes surged and surged. It was unknown how many there were. The wills were burned to death. The wills and shackles around Su Fang were swept away in an instant. Heavenly secret life shrinking technique. What a good Su Fang, to have grasped such a powerful divine ability with endless means. If I don't kill him now, he will definitely overshadow me in the future. He will also be a huge threat to my Hu tribe. With Xian Zheng's permission, if I don't kill him now, when will I? Hu Ditian's killing intent was revealed. He released all his remaining wills and sent them into the heavenly fate imperial seal. Chi. Chi. The blood-red light on the imperial seal surged, and it quickly turned into the words, "Serve the heavens and guard the Tao." They exuded an aura that could suppress the heavens and earth as they descended on Su Fang. "You want to kill my Su Fang? How can I let you do as you wish?" Primordial Qi, formless heavenly wheels. Primordial heavenly wheels. Su Fang also used his final trump card. All the primordial qi in the depths of the chaotic vortex in the Jiuxuan Tao Palace surged out and instantly fused with his body. Next, Su Fang stretched out his right hand and flicked his finger. A ring of chaotic light flew out from his fingertip and quickly flew towards the heavenly fate imperial seal. Puff, puff. When the heavenly fate imperial seal's divine might came into contact with Su Fang's Hong Meng Tianluan, it was like a cold wind meeting a blazing sun. It shattered layer by layer, but it only managed to slow down the Hong Meng Tianluan by a little. At this moment, Su Fang no longer only had a sliver of primordial qi. It was not just a sliver but a ball. When unleashed by the formless heavenly wheels, its power exceeded that of any other supreme abhijna. What kind of supreme abhijna is that? It can actually nullify the power of the heavenly fate imperial seal? Extraordinary, extraordinary. Su Fang is heaven-defying. That is the formless heavenly wheels. However, the power that Su Fang unleashed is superior to any other power. It contains the fundamental laws of the heavenly way. Thus, it can crush all spells and destroy all things. Hu Ditian is going to lose. Many people exclaimed in shock. Many of the Tao saints on the east side of the spiritual altar also stood up. Their eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Even Xianzheng's spell body in the battle of techniques space was shocked. Boom! The Hong Meng Tianluan collided with the Heavenly Fate Imperial Seal. The Heavenly Fate Imperial Seal was sent flying. The majestic yellow light that it had previously exuded was no longer there. The divine inscriptions on it were shattered and fine cracks appeared on the entire seal. Splat! The Heavenly Fate Imperial Seal contained Hu Ditian's consciousness, but it was also destroyed in this collision. Hu Ditian had one of his spell bodies destroyed and then used all his strength to activate the Heavenly Fate Imperial Seal. He was already in a state of near exhaustion. Now that his consciousness had been destroyed, it was one disaster after another. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was as pale as a sheet of paper. The dominating aura that he had previously exuded was gone, and he became dispirited and listless. Although Su Fang had used up all of his primordial chaos, the energy in the Tao Palace and the spell bodies had not been greatly depleted. He had only used up some of his life force when using the Heavenly Fate life shrinking technique, but it was still within his limit. Furthermore, he still had powerful techniques that he had not used. Killing Hu Ditian now would be a piece of cake, and he had a reason to kill Hu Ditian. Hu Ditian, kneel down and admit defeat. Su Fang shouted coldly at Hu Ditian, his domineering aura surging. Who would have thought that Hu Ditian would actually lose? Su Fang has created a miracle and defeated Hu Ditian. He will be Jiuxuan's #1 genius. Su Fang is mighty. Many cultivators began to loudly shout Su Fang's name. How can I let Jiuxuan's #1 heavens chosen fall into the hands of a cultivator who has been abandoned by the heavens? Hu Po's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Su Fang was about to charge at Hu Ditian. Suddenly Xianzheng transmitted a divine thought to Su Fang. Su Fang, you cannot win this battle. You can only lose. Su Fang sneered in his heart and replied bluntly, Lord Xianzheng, everything about Jiuxuan's heavens chosen is up to you to decide. Are you saying that even the #1 is up to you to decide who wins and who loses? How can a mere Taoist master like you be so presumptuous in front of me? You only have two choices. Admit defeat, and I will allow you to obtain second place with the identity of Hen Wuxiang. You will still be rewarded, and you can also become the common disciple of the Tao ancestor. I can even recruit you under my command and put you in an important position, allowing you to have a boundless future. What if I refuse to give up? If you insist, I will have no choice but to expose your identity and strip you of your qualifications in front of everyone. You won't even be able to take second place. So, Jiuxuan's Heavens Chosen is just a game for you people with power. Lord Xianzheng, if you let Hu Ditian take first place, what benefits will Hu people give you? Hearing Su Fang's mockery, Xianzheng's Dharma body's eyes were as cold as ice. The voice of his primordial spirit was bone-chilling. Tell me your choice. Don't wait until I lose my patience. Lord Xianzheng, your threats are useless against me. Since I dared to come here, I naturally won't be afraid of these things. I, Su Fang, don't care about the rewards of Jiuxuan's Heavens Chosen. I, Su Fang, don't care about the empty title of Jiuxuan's #1 genius. I changed my appearance and participated in the Jiuxuan's Heavens Chosen finals. My purpose is to prove myself. Su Fang's primordial spirit let out an unyielding voice. Then, ignoring Xianzheng, he pounced on Su Fang. Murderous intent flashed in Xianzheng's eyes. He was about to release his thoughts to shackle Su Fang. Suddenly an illusory and majestic voice sounded directly in Xianzheng's mind. Xianzheng, if you dare to touch a single hair on Su Fang, I will disregard my status and directly obliterate you. Xianzheng's entire body seemed to be frozen in an instant. Waves of cold air gushed out from his back. Even his thoughts were almost frozen. His heart was set off monstrous waves. Looking at Su Fang, Hu Ditian was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. As the Taoist of the Hu people, Hu Ditian's talent was peerless. Since the day of his cultivation, he had rarely tasted failure. In this Jiuxuan's Heaven's Chosen Finals, he had swept away all obstacles. He had originally thought that the number 1 spot in Jiuxuan's Heaven's Chosen Finals was already in his bag. Who would have thought that the situation would suddenly reverse? He had lost the first thing he had. It was as if he had fallen from the clouds to the ground. What was even more unbearable for him was that the one who had defeated him was the target of the Hu people's pursuit. Moreover, it was Su Fang, whom he had never taken seriously. Su Fang, you are the one who is seeking death. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Hu Ditian's eyes revealed a ruthless and callous expression. He waved his hand and took out a rune talisman. He released his power and crushed it. Chi. A ray of sword light shot into the sky. In an instant, it transformed into an eerie white ray of sword chi that was hundreds of meters long. It carried the supreme aura of a ruler, like the sword of a king. This ray of sword chi far surpassed the Tao profound realm. It even surpassed the limits of the sect elder's strength. In other words, it was second only to Tao Saint. Even if Su Fang's strength was heaven-defying, it was absolutely impossible for him to resist such an astonishing attack. Rune talisman? Such a powerful rune talisman can only be formed by at least Tao Saints. It is definitely not created by Hu Ditian's own strength. This is against the rules. The Jiuxuan's Heaven's Chosen Finals prohibits the use of rune talismans. Hu Ditian is clearly breaking the rules. Why didn't Lord Xianzheng stop him? Hundreds of millions of cultivators cried out in shock. However, Xianzheng's Dharma body inside the battle space did not move. It was as if he did not see this scene. Hu Ditian, you dare to kill Su Fang. I will kill you. The Wine Saint let out a thunderous roar and was about to teleport to the battle space. Go back. Hu Po exploded with an aura that could destroy everything and sent the Wine Saint flying back. Despicable. Hu Ditian is so shameless. How can Jiuxuan's higher-ups sit by and watch Su Fang be killed? Xu Wanjin, Dongxian Daoyan, Dongxian Wuhan, and the rest all shouted angrily. Hu Ditian looked at Su Fang. His eyes were gleaming with smugness and ruthlessness. After I kill you, Jiuxuan's God Realm's number 1 will still be mine. Then, Hu Ditian's mind moved. The peerless sword energy cut through all obstacles and slashed at Su Fang. Su Fang suddenly flashed a domineering smile. His eyes that looked at Hu Ditian were filled with mockery. He ignored the sword energy that came at him instantly. Xianzheng was stunned when he saw Su Fang's expression. Then, he realized something and shouted coldly at Hu Ditian, "Watch out!" Hu Ditian was stunned. Then, he sensed something behind him. Turning around, he saw Su Fang's silhouette condensing rapidly. The silhouette in front of him quickly turned into nothingness and was swallowed by the sword energy in an instant. Boom! Su Fang punched out with his fist. This punch was condensed with Gui Gui's poisonous gas and the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine's blood strands. It landed on Hu Ditian's back. The highly permeable poisonous gas and blood strands were all injected into Hu Ditian's body. Chapter 30:10. It turned out that Su Fang had used the heaven-altering art of mediating destiny to jump from the present to the future. The moment Hu Ditian crushed the rune talisman, the power of the heaven-altering art of mediating destiny exploded on Su Fang's body, allowing Su Fang to transcend the constraints of time and space and arrive in the future. He arrived behind Hu Ditian a split second earlier than the present time. The one killed by Hu Ditian's rune talisman was Su Fang, who existed in that split second in the present time. The heaven-altering art of mediating destiny was so amazing that it allowed Su Fang to arrive in the future from the present time. Although it was only a split second, It was enough to change life and death, giving Su Fang a chance to reverse the situation. Because Su Fang now had the heaven-altering Dharma body, his cultivation of the heaven-altering life-shrinking technique and the mysterious solution of heaven's expansion had reached a higher level, so Hu Ditian didn't notice it at all. Xian Zheng's Dharma body was focused on the wine sage to prevent him from saving Su Fang. He didn't expect Su Fang to have such an extraordinary and peerless divine ability. By the time he realized it, he immediately warned Hu Ditian, but it was already too late. Hu Ditian was in a miserable state. After Gui Gui merged with the Mercury spirit, not only was her poison amazing, but she also had the characteristic of being pervasive like Mercury. The blood threads of the heaven-piercing Blood King vine also had an amazing penetrating ability. Su Fang punched the poison and blood threads into Hu Ditian's body. The poison and blood threads instantly permeated every corner of his body, including the inside of his Dao palace. Sizzle! Under the corrosion of the poison, Hu Ditian's body was oozing pus and blood from the inside out. His skin began to fall off in large patches, and his flesh began to rot. Soon, his corroded bones were exposed. The blood threads of the heaven-piercing Blood King vine were also crazily devouring Hu Ditian's blood and Dao palace, which began to collapse. Hu Ditian let out a shrill scream like an evil spirit crying. His voice penetrated the spatial barrier of the battle of magical powers, causing the hair of billions of cultivators to stand on end. Everyone, including Xian Zheng, was shocked and horrified. Hu Ditian is finished this time. Hu Ditian only has himself to blame. Serves him right. What magical power did Su Fang use to dodge Hu Ditian's shocking talisman attack? Amidst the shock, the crowd was discussing animatedly. Countless gazes filled with reverence fell on Su Fang. At this moment, Su Fang was not only domineering in the eyes of the crowd, but also incomparably unfathomable. The many Dao saints on the Eastern Spell altar looked at the battle space in shock. They did not expect the situation to take such a turn. The Sage of Wine laughed domineeringly and said, "Good. Well done. It would be even better if you could kill all the remaining Dharmakayas." Whoosh! Whoosh! Hu Ditian's Dharmakaya flew out of the Dao Palace. He had cultivated a total of 7 Dharmakayas. Now there were only 5 left. One of them had been killed by Su Fang, and the other one, which was already severely injured, had been devoured by the heaven-piercing Blood King vine's blood threads. His physical body was still being corroded. Soon, only a set of grayish-black bones were left. Losing one's physical body did not mean death as long as one's Dharmakaya remained. As long as one took over a suitable physical body, one could be reborn. However, in this way, not only would one's vitality be greatly damaged, but one's strength and talent would also be damaged. Hu People's Path chosen Hu Ditian would be completely destroyed. Su Fang, how dare you destroy my physical body? I will not live under the same sky as you. Hu Ditian's 5 Dharmakayas roared angrily and were about to attack Su Fang. At this moment, Xian Zheng released his divine power to stop Hu Ditian's Dharmakayas. He shouted coldly, "Hu Ditian, stop! Su Fang, how dare you kill my Hu People's Path chosen? I will destroy you." Hu People's Dao Saint, Hu Po, let out a roar filled with murderous intent and was about to attack from the east side of the altar. Wine Sage's figure flashed and blocked in front of Hu Po. He chuckled and said, "Hu Po, how dare you kill Jiushuan's Heaven's Chosen?" Hu Po was entangled by Wine Sage and could not escape. He could only shout towards Xian Zheng's Dharmakaya in the battle of technique space, "Lord Xian Zheng, Hu People demand justice." Wine Sage also shouted in a deep voice, "Lord Xian Zheng, many pairs of eyes are watching. We will see how you deal with this. If you deal with this unfairly, I will not agree." Tua Qianji also suddenly said, "I also hope that Lord Xian Zheng will deal with this fairly. I have my own decision, why do I need you to remind me?" Xian Zheng snorted. Then, Xianjing looked indifferently at Su Fang. How dare you destroy Hu Ditian's body in front of me and cut off the path of a peerless genius of my human race? You look down on me, ignore the rules of Jiuxuan's heavens chosen, and kill a human genius. Do you know your crime? Su Fang's eyes were calm as he casually said, Lord Xianzheng's meaning is that Hu Ditian can kill me and I can only wait to be killed by him, but I can't kill him? If I resist, I will be daring and looking down on Lord Xianzheng. Is this a crime? Then why does Jiuxuan's heavens chosen need to compete? Just give first place to Hu Ditian. Xianzheng let out a thunderous roar. You still dare to quibble? What respect do you have for me and the elders? Su Fang looked at Xianzheng and revealed an unruly smile. Hu Ditian wanted to kill me, but Lord Xianzheng turned a blind eye to it. I destroyed Hu Ditian's body, but you said that I looked down on you and Jiuxuan's heavens chosen. I argued for myself, but this became a new crime. Lord Xianzheng, if you want to kill me, why don't you just say so? Why do you have to come up with such high-sounding excuses? Xianzheng shouted with dignity. Su Fang, you were disqualified from Jiuxuan's heavens chosen long ago, but you changed your appearance and identity to participate in the finals. This is a great crime. Great crime? Su Fang wiped his face with his right hand and the mask fell off, revealing his true appearance. His aura also changed greatly. Su Fang, Hen Wuxiang is indeed Su Fang. Cries of surprise rose and fell in the air. Wine Saint laughed heartily. It's you indeed. You're not simple, you're actually the top genius of the human race. Ha ha ha. Su Fang, he's a bastard. Sima Xiaoxiao cursed in her heart, then her face flushed red. Su Fang. Yi Feishu and Long Tianxi's eyes were filled with endless hatred and resentment. Many cultivators from Dongxian cheered thunderously. Hu people and the Yi clan have gone too far. The disciples and experts of the two clans tried to kill me time and time again. Hu Yufei even wanted to steal my Dao partner and asked the assassins of the Assassin League to kill me. I had no choice but to kill Hu Yufei to protect myself. The young lady of the Yi clan, Yi Fian, even wanted to devour my cultivator, but she was killed by the backlash. It had nothing to do with me. I am the top genius of the Eastern Xian divine domain in Jiuxuan, but Lord Xianzheng stripped me of my right to participate in the finals in order to show goodwill to the Hu people and the Yi clan. This caused me to be hunted down by the Hu people, the Yi clan, Feng Daoqing, Long Tianxi and other geniuses. If it weren't for the Dark Mother Daozu, how could I have survived? May I ask Lord Xianzheng, the Jiuxuan divine selection is to select geniuses for the human race. As the Grand Elder of the Elder Council, are you making decisions for the geniuses or for the Hu people and the Yi clan? What right do you have to strip me of my right to participate in the finals? What crime did I commit by taking part in the Jiuxuan divine selection under false pretenses? Su Fang raised his head and spoke loudly. Xianzheng couldn't find a reason to reprimand Su Fang. I finally understand that the Jiuxuan divine selection is just a game for those with power and influence. It's not really to select the true geniuses for the human race. Lord Xianzheng talks about fairness, but it's just a lip service. There's no need for Lord Xianzheng to do anything. You people regard the first place of the Jiuxuan divine selection as your destiny, but I, Su Fang, regard it as nothing more than grass. Therefore, I, Su Fang, do not want this first place. Su Fang's domineering and decisive voice caused the entire space to fall silent. A moment later, hundreds of millions of cultivators were in an uproar. What kind of glory was it to be the top genius of the human race? What kind of amazing benefits would it bring? Countless geniuses and major forces in the Jiuxuan divine realm had tried every possible means to obtain this title, but Su Fang had directly announced that he didn't want it. Others regarded it as their life, but Su Fang regarded it as nothing more than grass and discarded it like a pair of worn-out clogs. What kind of domineering and courage was this? Crazy, Su Fang has really gone crazy. He actually gave up on the title and benefits of being the top genius of the Jiuquan divine realm. Idiot, he doesn't want the title and fortune that is already in his hands, idiot. Domineering, mighty, this is the true number one genius of the Jiuquan. Compared to Su Fang, Hu Ditian is nothing. He's just an arrogant and despotic villain who relies on Hu people's influence. This time, Su Fang has slapped Xianzheng and the elders' faces in public. This is so satisfying, so satisfying. Su Fang destroyed Hu Ditian's physical body and offended Xianzheng's dignity in public. Xianzheng, the Hu people, and the Yi clan won't let him go. It's even more impossible for him to become the top genius of the Jiuquan. Him giving up now is actually the wisest choice. This kid has great wisdom. Everyone was shocked by Su Fang's decision and was discussing it animatedly. Most of the cultivators were convinced by Su Fang's domineering attitude and admired him. Some people thought that Su Fang was stupid, while others were worried about Su Fang and how he would end up. Have you said enough? Xianzheng's indifferent and dignified voice sounded, immediately suppressing the clamor of discussion. Then, Xianzheng looked at Su Fang, his lofty and dignified demi-daozu fully displayed. This seat disqualifies you from participating in the Jiuquan's Chosen One finals. Regardless of right or wrong, this is the same as the heavenly law. You entered the finals under false pretenses and deceived this seat and the elders. You have no right to be number one. Even if you want it, this seat won't give it to you. Sir, you are the high and mighty demi-daozu, the grand elder of the elders, and the future leader of the human race. I, Su Fang, am but an insignificant ant. How can I not obey your orders? Su Fang chuckled, his laughter full of anger and mockery, then flew out of the battle space. Chapter 30:11. Even though Xianzheng did not dare to make a move against Su Fang, he would not let Su Fang off just like that. Xianzheng was ambitious and wholeheartedly wanted to become the future leader of the human race. Originally, he wanted to use this Jiuquan Heaven selection to raise his prestige. The matter was made public by Su Fang. It was an extremely heavy blow to Xianzheng's face and prestige. How could he convince the masses? Xianzheng snorted, grabbed a 9-colored token, and issued a majestic voice towards Su Fang. Su Fang looked down on the Jiuquan elder group and destroyed the Jiuquan Heaven selection. This seat has decided to remove his name from the Tianqian ranking. From now on, he will not be protected by the Jiuquan Heaven's selection. As soon as his voice fell, he activated the token and released a Xian Guang, which swept past Su Fang. Su Fang immediately sensed that the connection with the Jiuquan Heaven's selection was forcefully and tyrannically severed by a supreme will. The protective power from the Jiuquan Heaven's selection vanished without a trace in an instant. The token in Xianzheng's hand was called the Jiuquan Supreme Token. It contained the supreme will of all the Daozu powerhouses in the Jiuquan divine realm. It represented the human race's supreme prestige and authority. It was given to Xianzheng to let him preside over the Jiuquan Heaven selection and temporarily lead the human race's powerhouses. The Jiuquan Heaven selection was jointly created by the human race's Daozu. Even the Daozu powerhouses could not easily change it. But Xianzheng possessed this token, and he could easily do it. Su Fang's name was removed from the Tianqian ranking, which also means that he is no longer protected by the Jiuquan Heaven's selection. Powerhouses surpassing the Dao Profound realm can attack him without restraint. Su Fang is in danger now. Su Fang killed Hu Yufei and Yi Fian. The Hu and Yi clans have been hunting him down. This time, he killed Hu Ditian's body, which is equivalent to destroying a peerless genius of the Hu people. How could the Hu people let him go? Xianzheng's actions are tantamount to giving Su Fang to a strong enemy. It's obvious that he wants to kill Su Fang to vent his anger. Countless cultivators were shocked by Xianzheng's decision, and many of them began to worry about Su Fang. Let's see how you die this time. Yi Feishu, Long Tianci, and the others looked at Su Fang with delight. Western mystic Tianqing revealed a cold smile. Your talent and strength indeed surpass mine. However, you are too arrogant and despotic, offending so many powers and powerhouses. How can you not die? After you die, this seat will still be the first genius of Xixian. Su Fang, run! Xu Wanjun secretly transmitted a thought to Su Fang with her essence spirit. Dongxian Daoyan, Dongxian Wuhan, and the others also sent messages to Su Fang. Without waiting for Su Fang to respond, Yi Feishu roared angrily, Su Fang, you have killed the disciples of the Yi clan. The Yi clan must avenge this. Then, Yi Feishu leaped from the west side of the altar and charged towards Su Fang. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 30 cultivators also charged out from the seats below the battle space. They were all cultivators from the Yi clan and the Hu people. However, the true powerhouses did not make a move. Not only did Hu Pu and the Yi clan's Dao Saint not make a move on the west side of the altar, the other powerhouses who had surpassed the realm of Dao Mystic did not make a move either. Su Fang's earlier battle with Hu Ditian had depleted more than half of his mana and energy. In addition, he had used up a large amount of his vitality to cast the art of mediating destiny. His aura was weak, and he looked like he was in his 50s. If the Hu people and Yi clan's powerhouses were to make a move in this state in front of hundreds of millions of cultivators, wouldn't it be embarrassing for the two clans? Su Fang, you have humiliated this seat. How can this seat let you go? Long Tianci hesitated for a moment before following Yi Feishu and charging out of the west side of the altar. His Dao heart was shattered, which meant that he had lost more than half of his strength. He was just putting on an act now. On one hand, he wanted to regain his confidence from Su Fang by participating in the battle to kill Su Fang. On the other hand, he wanted to get a share of the loot from Su Fang by getting his hands on Su Fang's Luck Spider and Purple Fate avatar. The 5 divine clans are so shameless. They actually sent out so many powerhouses just to deal with a Dao Master Cultivator after a fierce battle. Su Fang is in danger this time. Hundreds of millions of cultivators witnessed the scene of Su Fang being besieged by so many cultivators. They were furious and felt that it was unfair for Su Fang, but no one dared to say anything. Apart from Yi Feishu and Long Tianci, the rest of the 30-plus cultivators were in peak condition. In their opinion, killing Su Fang would be a piece of cake. Whoosh, a black curtain swept out. It turned out that Xu Wanjun had suddenly made a move. She used her divine aura to form a black curtain that enveloped more than a dozen cultivators. Although she couldn't deal with so many powerhouses by herself, it was more than enough to trap them for a dozen breaths of time. At the same time, Su Fang once again used the My Lord's seal of 10 directions. The supreme divine aura that dominated all directions enveloped the surroundings and shackled the other 20-plus powerhouses. Boom, boom, boom. The powerhouses of the Hu and Yi clans used their divine abilities and activated their Xian Bao, instantly shattering the divine aura of the My Lord's seal of 10 directions. However, Gui's attacks came one after another. A grayish-black figure flashed out from Su Fang's body. With a whoosh, his physical body collapsed and turned into a stream of grayish-black blood that rolled towards the powerhouses. 3 Hu people and Yi clan cultivators were immediately drawn into the blood. Although they tried their best to struggle and escape, their flesh was still corroded by the strong poison. It seemed that they wouldn't be able to survive. At the same time, Su Fang's right arm turned into a blood vine and flew out with a whoosh. It wrapped around Yi Feishu, who was behind him, and pulled him to the front. If you don't want the Taoist of the Yi clan to die in my hands, then come at me, Su Fang said with a murderous look. The blood vine wrapped around Yi Feishu's head. With just a thought, it would instantly devour Yi Feishu. Stop, all of you, stop! Yi Feishu shouted with a trembling voice. He didn't expect Su Fang to still have such shocking strength after going through such a huge battle. Not only did he fail to kill Su Fang, he even fell into Su Fang's hands. Naturally, he was shocked and furious. The Yi clan cultivators quickly stopped. The Hu people cultivators hesitated for a moment before charging towards Su Fang. Chi. Su Fang didn't hesitate to activate the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. It penetrated into Yi Feishu's head and devoured his Dao Palace and blood chi, turning him into a dried corpse. The Taoist of the Yi clan died just like that. Su Fang, you killed the Taoist of the Yi clan. My clan won't rest until you're dead. The powerhouses of the Yi clan roared and charged towards Su Fang without caring about anything. Even Gui couldn't stop them. This time, I'll let the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine have its fill. A ruthless glint flashed in Su Fang's eyes. His body changed rapidly. Blood-red lines appeared on the surface of his skin. They quickly condensed into blood-red vines, and flew toward the experts of the two clans to attack him. At this moment, other than Su Fang's head, the rest of his body had turned into blood vines. His entire body was emitting an evil aura. He looked extremely strange and terrifying. Although he was far from being comparable to the main body of the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine, the power he displayed was extremely shocking. Chi. The blood vines pierced through the defenses of the cultivators and wrapped around their bodies. They crazily devoured their life force and blood chi. Su Fang's originally weak life force was recovering at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. The cultivators of the Hu and Yi clans were also extraordinary. They burst out with powerful strength and destroyed the blood vines one after another. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine had fused with Su Fang. It was also a part of Su Fang's physical body. Now that the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine was damaged, it meant that his life force was being depleted. However, the rate of depletion was far slower than Su Fang's devouring speed. After devouring Yi Feishu and the 6 cultivators of the Hu and Yi clans, Su Fang's aura became even more majestic. Su Fang has been taken over by a foreign clan. All human cultivators can kill him. Hupa finally couldn't hold it in and shouted at the billions of cultivators. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Immediately, hundreds of cultivators charged out from the space. Some of these cultivators came from the 5 great divine clans. Some came from the Imperial Divine Realm and other divine realms. They wanted to kill Su Fang to curry favor with the 5 great divine clans. The blood vines that Su Fang had transformed into were swallowed by the powerful attacks of the cultivators. Su Fang had no choice but to keep the heaven-piercing Blood King Vine. He used the 10,000 celestial wheels and condensed layers of light wheels to form a strong defense around him. Now's our chance. Long Tianxi commanded the Violet Fate Heavenly Dragon from behind and charged towards Su Fang. He wanted to devour Su Fang's fate and seize Su Fang's Luck Spider and Violet Fate spell body. Long Tianxi, you despicable person! Su Fang roared angrily. Mystery activated the Blackwater Soul Fishing Diagram in his Jiuxuan Dao Palace. A golden fish hook flew out, bypassing the surrounding divine power shackles and vibrations, and landed on Long Tianxi's head. When the fish hook was retracted, there was an additional shadow of Long Tianxi on the hook. It was Long Tianxi's original soul. Su Fang, spare my life. Long Tianxi's soul revealed a terrified expression and begged Su Fang for mercy. Despicable person like you, what right do you have to live in this world? Su Fang laughed coldly and murderously. Su Fang, I am a disciple of Hongtian Daozu. How dare you kill me? Hongtian Supreme will never let you go. Long Tianxi threatened loudly. But Su Fang turned a deaf ear to Long Tianxi's threat. He had Mystery suck Long Tianxi's soul into the Blackwater Soul Fishing Diagram. With Long Tianxi dead, the Violet Fate Heavenly Dragon became an ownerless object. Su Fang's Violet Fate spell body released a beam of violet light and sucked it into the Dao Palace to be sealed. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fang's Heavenly Wheel defense was also breaking down layer by layer. It looked like it would collapse at any moment. Heavenly Fate Life Shrinking Art Conceal Aura. Su Fang used the Heavenly Fate Life Shrinking Art again the moment he was engulfed by the attacks of the cultivators. He concealed his aura and disappeared from everyone's sight. The cultivators suddenly lost their target. While they were still in shock and astonishment, Su Fang suddenly appeared behind a Hu people's profound Tao expert. The heaven-piercing blood king vine immediately wrapped around him like a dumpling and sucked him dry. Su Fang recovered some of his life force and energy. He urged the heaven-piercing blood king vine to dance freely. Gui Gui also began to release a highly toxic aura that spread to the surroundings. More than 100 experts besieged Su Fang, but surprisingly, they couldn't do anything to him. A bunch of useless trash. Hu Po flew into a rage. He finally couldn't hold back and was about to attack. At this time, Wine Sage released a thought to block Hu Po. Chapter 30:12. As one of the higher-ups of Jiuquan and an elder of the Elder Group, how can you fight in front of billions of cultivators? Xian Zheng's original body, which was left on the Eastern Spell Altar, shouted coldly. A wave of divine power swept out, causing the Wine Saint and the other Dao Saints to stagger. The Hu people's Dao Saint, Hu Po, and the Yi clan's Dao Saint took the chance to break free from the Wine Saint and Tua Qianji's entanglement. They instantly charged towards Su Fang. Xianzheng was obviously doing this on purpose. He allowed Hu Po and the Yi clan's Dao Saint to kill Su Fang. Su Fang, what are you waiting for? Hu Po and the Yi clan's Dao Saint attacked Su Fang at the same time. Not only did they want to kill Su Fang, but they also wanted to steal Su Fang's spider. Su Fang is dead for sure. Almost all the cultivators had the same thought at the same time. In the face of two Dao Saints, no matter how heaven-defying Su Fang was, he would only be reduced to ashes. How could he survive? Two juniors, how dare you hurt my disciple? Cram! A cold shout suddenly came from the void. Then, an extremely powerful will and divine power swept out. Daozu's Dao Saint. The divine light of Hu Po and the Yi clan's Dao Saints changed instantly. The killing intent in their eyes towards Su Fang turned into fear and shock. Under that powerful will, the two Dao Saints trembled like weak chickens. They could not resist at all and were sent flying by the divine power. Their physical bodies shattered layer by layer, becoming a bloody mess. At the same time, they spat out a mouthful of blood, which landed on the eastern floating spell altar. Blood chi gushed out of his shattered body, quickly recovering to its original state. The two of them had just heaved a sigh of relief when another wave of power exploded in their bodies. Their physical bodies shattered again, and fresh blood spurted out like a fountain. The two of them recovered their physical bodies once again. Their auras had become extremely weak. It was obvious that their life force had been damaged and their vital energy had been greatly damaged. Hu Po and the Yi clan's Dao Saint looked at Su Fang in shock. Their eyes were filled with respect and fear. Billions of cultivators were looking at Su Fang. No one had expected such a turn of event. Xianzheng was also shocked. I did not expect Su Fang to have a Daozu's backing. He did not care about the dignity of a powerful cultivator and attacked a Dao Saint. In the Jiuquan divine territory, the Daozu's Daozu had rarely attacked low-level human cultivators. Su's Daozu's Dao Saint, Daozu's Dao Saint, Su Fang of the Daozu's Dao Saint. However, Su Fang's face was filled with confusion. That was because the person who had attacked was not Dao ancestor Shi Xian. But why did he say that Su Fang was his disciple? A ray of starlight flashed and transformed into a tall, upright figure. Although his face could not be seen clearly, Su Fang was no stranger to him. This person was none other than Dongxian Daozu. Greetings, Lord Daozu. Greetings, Supreme One. Greetings, Master. Many Dao Saints cupped their fists and bowed. The cultivators from the Eastern Xian divine territory followed suit. Billions of cultivators were shocked and in awe. They could not help but kneel before Dongxian Daozu. While they were shocked, they were also confused. Since when had Su Fang become Dongxian Daozu's disciple? Tua Qianji, Dongxian Daoyan, Dongxian Wuhan and the others all looked at Su Fang in shock. They could not understand. Su Fang had not even entered Heaven Pavilion. Since when had he become Dongxian Daozu's disciple? Suddenly, Shi Xian Daozu's voice came from Su Fang's body. Since when did my disciple become yours? Then, Shi Xian Daozu's figure condensed in front of Su Fang. Boom! Every cultivator felt as if thunder had struck in their minds. They did not expect Shi Xian Daozu to appear and claim that Su Fang was his disciple. Although Daozu's disciples were noble, they were not rare. Many of the people present were Daozu's disciples, and they were Daozu's direct disciples. It was extremely rare for two Daozu masters to take in the same disciple. After all, Daozu masters had their own pride. They would not lower themselves to take in the same disciple as other masters of the same level. Yet, Su Fang had two Daozu masters. How shocking was this? The cultivators from Shi Xian exclaimed in shock and bowed to Shi Xian Daozu. Shi Xian Tianqing was surprised and shocked. At the same time, he was filled with jealousy. As Daozu's direct disciple, he had only received Shi Xian Daozu's inheritance. He cultivated on his own most of the time, and Shi Xian Daozu only gave him occasional pointers. Shi Xian Daozu had hidden a strand of thought in Su Fang's body. This meant that Su Fang could receive his pointers at any time. For Su Fang, Shi Xian Daozu had appeared directly. It was enough to show how much importance he attached to Su Fang. How could Shi Xian Tianqing not be shocked and jealous? Dongxian Daozu stroked his long beard and chuckled. While this seat did not teach Su Fang any method, abhina, or guide his cultivation, he received this seat's ultimate treasure. He counts as half a disciple, and is comparable to an inheritor. Humph, this ancestor disdains to fight with you. Shi Xian Daozu snorted. Then he looked at Xianzheng on the eastern spell altar. You humiliate this ancestor's disciple so wantonly. Do you, a half-step Daozu, want to challenge this ancestor? Or do you think your power is boundless and you can be above this ancestor when you preside over this Jiuxuan Heaven's selection? An invisible will enveloped Xianzheng's body, causing him to tremble from head to toe. He couldn't even utter a single word. Dongxian Daozu then said in a cold voice, When has this ancestor's disciple ever offended you? Why do you want to kill him again and again? You can look down on this ancestor and ignore the Eastern Xian Divine Region just to curry favor with the 5 divine regions of the Central Xian Divine Region? Another majestic pressure descended. Xianzheng's body trembled, and he immediately knelt on the spell altar. Suddenly an icy, sinister aura surged out of the void and descended on Xianzheng's body. Xianzheng could no longer bear it. He knelt on the spell altar and spat out a mouthful of blood. A black figure appeared. The light in the entire space suddenly dimmed, and the temperature dropped below freezing. Another Daozu expert had appeared. It was the Dark Mother Daozu. The many Dao saints on the spell altar felt the pressure of the 3 Daozu's wills. They could no longer bear it and all knelt on the spell altar. Xianzheng's Dharma body looked at the Dark Mother Daozu. He respectfully cupped his fists and said, This one did not offend you, Dark Mother. May I know why you are so angry? Daozu said indifferently, Su Fang is this ancestor's disciple's Dao companion. If you kill him, do you want this ancestor's disciple to be alone for the rest of his life? Buzz Xianzheng's mind rumbled. He complained incessantly in his heart. Why was this? Even Dao saints knew very little about the Daozu experts, let alone the Daozu's strength. Xianzheng was a half-step Dao ancestor. He was considered to have 1 foot in the Dao ancestor realm. He knew a little about the Dao ancestor expert. Although the Dark Mother Daozu was not the most powerful Daozu expert, she was the most difficult Daozu expert to deal with in the human world. Most of the other Daozu had their own forces. They naturally had their own scruples when doing things. Daozu, on the other hand, only had a few disciples. She did not have any forces. She was eccentric, unsociable, and unscrupulous in her actions. Previously, in order to help Xu Wanjin vent her anger, Daozu personally went to the Hu people and fought with the Hu people Daozu. Her style of doing things was clear. Who wouldn't have a headache when dealing with someone like her? It was no wonder that the Hu people and the other Daozu experts did not appear. They were definitely afraid of provoking this unreasonable old monster. As long as she did not wantonly kill people, those Daozu experts would naturally not take the initiative to appear and bring bad luck to themselves. Xian Zheng's Dharmakaya looked at Su Fang and cursed in his heart. She had the support of 3 Daozu experts, but she pretended to have no background. Wasn't she purposely tricking people? Not only Xian Zheng, but all the cultivators were shocked. A Dao master cultivator actually had 3 Daozu experts behind her. In the entire human world, how many people had such a powerful background? The direct descendants of the Daozu and the Daozu of the 5 great god clans were already extremely noble. However, compared to Su Fang, they were nothing. According to the rewards of the Jiuxuan Heaven selection, the top 3 would become the Daozu's disciples and receive the same treatment. It seemed glorious, but the Daozu experts would never treat them as disciples and train them. Su Fang had the support of 3 Daozu experts. Naturally, she would not care about the rewards of the Jiuxuan Heaven's selection. The Shi Xian Daozu snorted. The Daozu of the human race unanimously decided to hold this Jiuxuan Heaven's selection to select true geniuses for the human race. But what did you do, Xian Zheng? You actually wanted to kill a true peerless genius. This Daozu can't help but suspect that you are a foreign spy. Xian Zheng had just breathed a sigh of relief when the will pressure on him dissipated. However, the Shi Xian Daozu's words made his heart sink to the bottom again. The Dongxian Daozu said indifferently, "You have turned a perfectly good gathering of the human race's geniuses into a farce. This Daozu is truly disappointed. Dongxian cultivators, return." The Dongxian divine region withdraws from this Jiuxuan Heaven's selection. The Dongxian Daozu's decision caused an uproar among the cultivators. The Dongxian cultivators dared not defy the supreme will. All of them bowed respectfully to the Dongxian Daozu's figure and swiftly left the space under the lead of Tua Qianji and other Dongxian higher up. The central divine region belongs to the 5 great god clans. Little drunkard, bring the Shi Xian cultivators back to Shi Xian as well, lest they be bullied. The Shi Xian Daozu spoke in a majestic voice. I will obey Master's decree. The saint in wine bowed to the Shi Xian Daozu. Then, he shouted to the cultivators from Shi Xian, all of you return. Leave no one behind. Although Shi Xian Tianqing was reluctant, he dared not disobey the Shi Xian Daozu's order. He could only follow the crowd. The saint in wine said to Su Fang, Little junior brother, are you coming back to Shi Xian with us? Su Fang was about to speak when the Shi Xian Daozu waved his hand and said, Su Fang still has matters to attend to with this reputed one. Go on. The Shi Xian Daozu's words envied the Shi Xian cultivators. With the departure of the Dongxian and Shi Xian cultivators, the people in the space became much sparser. Chapter 30:13. I can't believe that the Jiuxuan's chosen of heaven held by the Jiuxuan's higher-ups would end so hastily. Su Fang is right. In the end, the Jiuxuan's chosen of heaven has become a game for those in power. They've been suppressing true geniuses everywhere. Where is the fairness and justice? Xianjing looks like he's just and fair, but in reality, he's been protecting the interests of the 5 divine tribes. How can anyone be convinced? Xianjing thinks that Su Fang is just an ant without any experts or forces to back him up. That's why he dares to suppress Su Fang so wantonly. I can't believe that Su Fang has such a powerful background. The 3 great Daozu are standing up for him. Xianjing's actions are truly laughable. As the cultivators of Dongxian and Western Mystic Divine Region left, everyone was discussing among themselves. Some of them were still apprehensive, communicating secretly with their nascent spirits, while others were whispering to each other, not caring about Xianzheng's reputation at all. Xianzheng was a half-step Daozu. His ability was astounding. Although the cultivators' voices were soft, they couldn't escape his ears. Hearing the crowd's discussion, Xianzheng's face was ashen. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. The Dao Saint powerhouses from the Elder Council looked at Xianzheng and sighed with emotion. He never imagined that a dignified half-step Dao ancestor like Xianzheng would fall into such a situation because of a mere Dao lord like Su Fang. Even though he couldn't be said to have lost all standing and reputation, he'd at least lost all face. Hu Pe, the Yi clan's Dao Saint, and the other Dao Saints of the 5 divine tribes were all shocked and terrified. How could they dare continue to think about killing Su Fang? Su Fang, I'm very satisfied with your performance this time. Even though Jiuxuan's Tianxian parted on bad terms, Master will not go back on his promise to you. Shi Xian Daozu's voice sounded in Su Fang's mind. Then, with a thought, he condensed a barrier that enveloped Su Fang, Dongxian Daozu, Dark Mother Daozu, and Shu Wanjun. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised. Dongxian Daozu said majestically, Su Fang, you have obtained this ancestor's most precious treasure. You will be this ancestor's successor in the future. Why don't you quickly acknowledge me as your master? Could it be that you want this ancestor to beg you? Or do you think this ancestor isn't qualified to be your master? This, Su Fang looked at Shi Xian Daozu. Shi Xian Daozu snorted and said, as long as there are benefits, getting a master for free, why would he not agree to such a good thing? Picking up a cheap master for free? Dongxian Daozu raised his eyebrows. Greetings, master. Su Fang was about to kneel and kowtow to Dongxian Daozu when Dongxian Daozu stopped him with a chuckle. Just like this, Su Fang had another master Daozu. But in Su Fang's mind, Shi Xian Daozu was his true master. Dongxian Daozu was only his master in name. In his mind, Dongxian Daozu was far below Shi Xian Daozu. Dongxian Daozu took out a jade scroll. With a thought, he floated it in front of Su Fang. Master has nothing to teach you. This jade scroll contains how to merge and cultivate Slaughter's heart. It also contains Master's Yin-Yang Dao. You can use it to cultivate your heavenly Dao body. As expected, there are benefits. Su Fang was overjoyed and carefully put away the jade scroll. If there were no benefits, you would not recognize Ben Zhu as your master, right? Dongxian Daozu's starry eyes stared at Su Fang as he said with a chuckle. Su Fang felt ashamed. After a pause, Dongxian Daozu said, if you want to seek the truth of the great Dao, you can only rely on yourself. What old ghost Shi Xian and Master have taught you is just the path we have walked. If you want to go further, you can use it as a reference, but do not be constrained by it. Su Fang bowed and said, yes, this disciple will remember Master's teachings. Dongxian Daozu laughed and was in a good mood. Then he sighed. The invasion of the human world is imminent, but the upper echelons of the human race are still fighting for power. Once the calamity comes, the human world will be in danger. Shi Xian Daozu also sighed helplessly. Then Shi Xian Daozu stroked his white beard at Daozu the Dark Mother. Dark Woman, many thanks to you this time. Mother Daozu the Dark Mother snorted. Dongxian Daozu said with a smile, you two can talk about old times. This zoo will not stay here and be an eyesore. Before he finished, the light of the 3 Daozu experts changed at the same time. What is it? Su Fang was shocked. The Daozu experts were supreme existences of the human race. Nothing could shock the 3 Daozu experts like this. Shi Xian Daozu waved his sleeve and the surrounding boundaries disappeared. Boom boom boom. Ethereal sounds of thunder reverberated through space, and all energy and laws became chaotic. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was terrified. What the hell happened? All of a sudden, Su Fang felt like he had lost something extremely important. This made his heart tremble. An ominous premonition of a great calamity surged in Su Fang's heart. An inexplicable fear enveloped his entire body. The true text from the mysterious solution of heaven and the mysterious Tao text from the life-shrinking technique flashed in the Tao Palace. The Destiny Avatar and the Purple Fate Avatar were also trembling. The great calamity of the human race. Come quickly and discuss it. An old voice filled with supreme majesty rang out from the void. Shi Xian Daozu, Dong Xian Daozu, and Mother Daozu the Dark Mother entered the void at the same time and disappeared without a trace. Billions of cultivators fell into a great panic. They did not know what to do. Suddenly, a genius from an unknown place suddenly exclaimed, "Jiuxuan's heavenly laws! I have lost the protection of the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws." Then, a succession of Tao saints exclaimed, "Jiuxuan's heavenly laws are gone. Jiuxuan's heavenly laws are broken. The human world has lost the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws. The sky is collapsing." Boom! Su Fang's mind was in a state of rumbling, and his heart was in turmoil. The Jiuxuan's heavenly laws were created by the top experts of the human race over countless years. They were like the heavenly Tao's heavenly laws. Not only were they used to protect geniuses, but they were also used to protect the entire human world. Without the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws, foreign race experts could enter the human world without fear. It would be difficult for them to be detected. They could slaughter the human race as they pleased and would not be attacked by the heavenly laws. The Jiuxuan's heavenly laws were broken. This meant that the human world had lost a protective barrier. It was no different from the collapse of the world. Unexpectedly, Dong Xiandaozu had just been talking about the calamity of the human race. Now, the calamity had come. Everyone was shocked and alarmed. The space became deathly silent. Everyone was in a state of panic, especially the cultivators from the southern profound divine region and the Big Goblin. The Jiuxuan's heavenly laws would not be broken for no reason. It must be related to the foreign races. Once the foreign races launched a large-scale attack on the human world, the southern profound divine region would be the first to bear the brunt. How could the southern profound cultivators and the Big Goblin not panic? A southern profound Tao saint quickly left with Sima Xiaoxiao, Yuan Jin, and the Big Goblin. "Senior sister, let's go." Su Fang sent a message to Shu Wanjin. The two followed the crowd and left the space. After flying out of the Culmination God Watchtower, Su Fang and Shu Wanjin arrived at the Culmination God capital. They rented a cave abode in a merchant house and temporarily stayed there while waiting for news from Shi Xiandaozu. As the Jiuxuan's heavenly laws were broken, the entire Culmination God capital fell into a great panic. The bustling divine capital fell completely silent. Su Fang and Shu Wanjin could only wait for news in the cave abode. Their hearts were heavy. A calamity must have happened in the human world. No one could predict what would happen next. Su Fang thought of the Pan Song universe. The current scene was very similar to the time when evil suns kept appearing in the Pan Song universe. The calamity engulfed the entire universe. However, the calamity of the human race this time was much more terrifying than the calamity that the evil god brought to the Pan Song universe. The calamity is coming. My strength is far from enough. Su Fang felt a sense of urgency that he had never felt before. Su Fang, let me enter your heavenly Tao avatar. I want to see. Father. Shu Wanjin suddenly passed through the barrier and entered Su Fang's cave abode. She said coldly to Su Fang. Su Fang was stunned. He immediately understood Shu Wanjin's intention. Due to the past, Shu Wanjin had never forgiven her father, Shu Yunkong. Now that the human race was facing a calamity, she was about to go to the mystic god domain. She didn't know if they would meet again in the future. Now that she was going to see Shu Yunkong, it was obvious that she had completely let go of the past and bid farewell to Shu Wanjin. Su Fang quickly sucked Shu Wanjun into the Heavenly Tao avatar. Inside the Heavenly Tao avatar was a vast and boundless universe. With the increase of Su Fang's cultivation, Su Fang's universe had become a mature low-level universe. It had even surpassed the Pan Tsong universe of the past. Countless lives, including cultivators and Big Goblin, lived and multiplied in Su Fang's universe. The huge Jinmu tree connected the heaven and earth of Su Fang's universe. Su Fang's family and friends all lived at the top of the Jinmu tree. On a huge leaf at the top of the Jinmu tree, there was a world of its own inside. Birds chirped and flowers bloomed. Spirit energy was abundant. Shu Yunkong was sitting cross-legged under a divine Bodhi tree. He was immersed in cultivation. Shu Wanjun's figure slowly condensed. She said in a trembling voice, "Father." Shu Yunkong opened his eyes and looked at Shu Wanjun in disbelief. Then, he trembled in excitement. When Shu Wanjun was bidding farewell to her father, Su Fang also came to Fuyao's cavern. Xuanxin had been cultivating in Fuyao's cavern all these years. Su Fang came to bid farewell to Xuanxin. Xuanxin looked at Su Fang. He saw something in Su Fang's eyes. An imperceptible sadness appeared in his calm eyes. Jiuxuan's heavenly selection has ended? Su Fang told Xuanxin about Jiuxuan's heavenly selection. Daozu of Shixian had promised that if Su Fang could enter the top 3 of Jiuxuan's heavenly selection, he would help Xuanxin become a disciple of an expert. Xuanxin was extremely intelligent. She already knew that the day of their separation was coming. She didn't know when they would meet again, especially now that the human world of Jiuxuan had suddenly changed. Everyone's life and death were uncertain. Su Fang felt very reluctant. However, Su Fang knew that Xuanxin was an extremely proud person. She had her own dreams. Su Fang would not selfishly keep her by his side. Everything was in silence. Chapter 30:14. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Shu Wanjun suddenly sent a telepathic message. Su Fang, come quickly. Master is summoning me. I am about to return to Yuxian. Su Fang released Shu Wanjun from the Heavenly Path avatar. Shu Wanjun had just bid farewell to Su Fang and looked depressed. She stared at Su Fang and said faintly, "Su Fang, take care of yourself." Su Fang said dejectedly, "Senior sister, take care." Shu Wanjun swept out a cold black xian guang from her palm, and Du Zhixiang's figure appeared. Shu Wanjun said coldly to Du Zhixiang, "Serve Su Fang well. But do not let him indulge in female charms and forget to cultivate. Do you hear me?" Du Zhixiang's face was red as she replied, "Yes." Su Fang was very embarrassed. He did not expect Shu Wanjun to arrange things like this. "Senior sister, please take Luo with you when you go to Yuxian." Su Fang released Luo from the Heavenly Path avatar. Luo was an Azura. He was born from blood and slaughter. He liked to take risks and kill. Staying with Su Fang was not only a kind of torture for him, his future growth was also very limited. The Yuxian Divine Domain was a world of blood and slaughter. Luo was going to the Yuxian Divine Domain to train and take risk. This was something Luo had told Su Fang long ago. "Luo, senior sister, take care." Shu Wanjun left the abode with Luo. Su Fang's heart became empty. Daozu of Shixian was still discussing matters with other Daozu experts. Su Fang could only continue to wait in the abode. Another 3 days passed. Su Fang was sitting cross-legged in the abode when a powerful will suddenly descended. It suppressed Su Fang's will to the point of collapse. Ding! A purple light suddenly flashed out and slowly condensed into a purple-robed middle-aged man. This person's aura was incorporeal, making it difficult for Su Fang to sense his depth. His entire being was filled with the fortune of the heavenly Tao, making Su Fang feel as if he was facing an incarnation of the fortune of the heavenly Tao. With just a thought, this person could crush him into powder without leaving a trace. Daozu expert. This person is Hong Tian Daozu. Su Fang guessed the other party's identity, and his Dao heart couldn't help but tremble. Long Tianxi was Hong Tiandaozu's disciple. Long Tianxi had been killed by Mystery's Blackwater soul fishing diagram, and the Violet Fate celestial dragon had been shackled by Su Fang. Hong Tiandaozu hadn't appeared out of boredom. Hand over Long Tianxi's soul. Hong Tiandaozu said indifferently. Hand over Long Tianxi's soul? Long Tianxi's soul had been fished up by the old man in the Blackwater soul fishing diagram. How could he hand it over? Hong Tiandaozu looked at Su Fang, and suddenly exploded with an astonishing suction force. It passed through Su Fang's Dao Palace and pulled Mystery out of it. Hong Tiandaozu waved his hand again, and the Blackwater soul fishing diagram flew out of Mystery's body. It floated in front of Hong Tiandaozu and slowly unfurled. It's that old bastard's treasure. Hong Tiandaozu's purple eyebrows arched, and he reached into the diagram. From the fish basket next to the old man, he pulled out an illusory figure. It was Long Tianxi's soul. Su Fang was shocked. This level of strength was beyond his imagination. Hong Tiandaozu pulled out another body and sent the soul into it. He used a purple xianguang to envelop the body. A moment later, the corpse-like body came back to life. It was Long Tianxi. How dare you kill my disciple? You'll pay with your life. Hong Tiandaozu's eyes flashed, and a terrifying willpower shot toward Mystery like a bolt of purple lightning. Mystery was as insignificant as an ant in the face of the Daozu's attack. The only thing he could do was to close his eyes and wait for death. Suddenly a surprised voice sounded from the void. Huh? This ancestor's Blackwater soul fishing diagram is here? At the same time, a large black hand reached out from the void and grabbed Mystery and the Blackwater soul fishing diagram. Hong Tiandaozu's willpower attack fell on the large hand and was shattered. Then the large black hand grabbed Mystery and pulled him into the void. Old Hong Tian, this person is related to me. Can you give me some face? A voice sounded, as if it came from a distant place. Hong Tiandaozu snorted coldly, but said nothing. Master, this is the person who killed me. He even took the Violet Fate dragon. Master, please help me. Long Tianxi pointed at Su Fang and shouted through gritted teeth. Hong Tiandaozu looked at Su Fang and said in a majestic voice, For the sake of Dongxian and Xishuan Daozu, I won't kill you. However, the Violet Fate dragon is Long Tianxi's. Hand it over. Hand over the Violet Fate dragon? After Su Fang had taken the Violet Fate dragon, he had sealed it in the Dao Palace and hadn't had time to fuse with it. If he could fuse with the Violet Fate dragon, Su Fang's Violet Fate avatar would reach an unimaginable height. He hadn't expected Hong Tiandaozu to suddenly appear and take back the Violet Fate dragon. Su Fang was very unwilling to give up a piece of meat that was already in his mouth, but he had to hand it over. Hong Tian, you dare steal this ancestor's disciple's treasure? Shi Xian Daozu's figure flashed out, and the pressure that had enveloped Su Fang instantly vanished. The Shi Xian Daozu that had appeared this time wasn't a doppelganger created by his thoughts, but a physical body. Master! Su Fang was surprised and delighted. Shi Xian Daozu had appeared at the perfect time. Hong Tiandaozu's brows furrowed. Shi Xian, the Violet Fate dragon is this ancestor's disciple's treasure. How did it become your disciple's treasure? Shi Xian Daozu snorted. It used to be your disciple's treasure, but it was taken by my disciple. Naturally, it belongs to my disciple. Besides, your disciple is just a piece of trash who's only got lucky. No matter how good the treasure is, it's a waste in his hands. Long Tianxi's face was filled with humiliation and anger. Being called a piece of trash by a Daozu cultivator was a blow to him. Hong Tiandaozu said angrily, Shi Xian, are you being unreasonable? Shi Xian Daozu said, Let the juniors resolve their own matters. If you want to interfere, this ancestor will keep you company. I'll tell you something else as well, old man Dongxian is this ancestor's disciple's master. Hong Tiandaozu's brow furrowed deeply. He snorted coldly and then took Long Tianxi away. Su Fang exhaled deeply in relief. He was filled with gratitude towards Shi Xiandaozu. How fortunate was it to have such a domineering master! Thinking of Shroud, who had been taken away by the nameless cultivator, Su Fang grew worried again and asked Shi Xiandaozu. That was the Dharma forefather of Nether, also a Daozu cultivator. The Black Water forefather you speak of is one of his disciples and has long passed away. All the Daozu cultivators have gathered in Middle Xian for a meeting, and the Dharma forefather of Nether was one of them. The Black Water Soul fishing portrait was one of his treasures. It was obvious that the Black Water Soul fishing portrait's aura had attracted his attention. It's a good thing that your friend has been taken away by the Dharma forefather of Nether. This is his fortune. You don't have to worry about him. Shi Xiandaozu's words reassured Su Fang. Then, Su Fang asked again, Master, what happened? Why did Jiuxuan's heavenly law suddenly shatter? Shi Xiandaozu said in a low voice, The foreign tribes attacked the human world with all their might. A cultivator stronger than the Daozu has taken action and broken Jiuxuan's heavenly law. Su Fang had expected this result, but he was still shocked when he heard Shi Xiandaozu say it himself. Shi Xiandaozu said, Right now, the foreign tribes are attacking South Xian. It probably won't be long before South Xian falls. However, it will not be so easy for the foreign tribes to completely take over our human world. The foreign tribes have a cultivator stronger than the Daozu. How can the human race stop the invasion of the foreign tribes? This concerned the survival of the entire human race. Su Fang could not help but be nervous. With your current strength, it's unavoidable for you to worry about such things. What you need to do now is quickly increase your strength. Do not be distracted by other matters. There will be a cultivator to worry about the invasion of the foreign tribes. Yes, Master. Let's go. Master will take you to a place to help your Tao companion become a disciple of that cultivator. Su Fang finally understood. Shi Xiandaozu had sent out a Dharma body to help Xuanxin become a disciple. Su Fang was touched, but at the same time, he felt guilty. A white Xian Guang came out of Shi Xiandaozu's body and formed a wheel of light that covered him and Su Fang. The wheel of light suddenly spun and took the two of them past all restraints and into nothingness. Su Fang passed through the wheel of light. The Xian Guang came at him. The changing of time and space caused him to feel dizzy. He hurriedly closed his eyes and sat cross-legged in the wheel of light. After a moment, Shi Xiandaozu's voice sounded. We've arrived. Su Fang opened his eyes and looked over. What he saw was a boundless world. The surroundings were deathly silent. Nothing existed. There was no light, no sound, not even the restraints of time and space. There was nothing. However, it was in this empty space that everything seemed to be contained. This is the outer realm chaos? Su Fang asked in shock. He found that he could not make a sound. He could only send his thoughts with his primordial spirit. Even sending his thoughts would use up a lot of primordial spirit power. Shi Xiandaozu nodded. Yes, this is the outer realm chaos. The master I found for your Tao companion is a foreign race expert. Foreign race expert? The outer realm chaos is boundless. There are countless lifeforms. We humans call them the other races. However, not all of them are as evil as the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan. There are only a small number of foreign races that hate humans. Shi Xiandaozu explained. Then he said, I once roamed the outer realm chaos and met many foreign race experts. The place I will take you to is the world of a friend of mine. That place is suitable for your Tao companion, Xuanxin, to cultivate. Su Fang felt a wave of gratitude. This was a dangerous time for the invasion of the human world by the other races. In order to help Xuanxin become a disciple, Shi Xiandaozu had entered the outer realm chaos with a doppelganger as Daozu. Su Fang had nothing to say that his master had done this. Chapter 30:15. Su Fang could already surpass the limit of Tao Lord and advance to Tao Profound Realm a long time ago. But for the sake of Jiuxuan Heaven's choice, he had always suppressed his cultivation. Now that Jiuxuan Heaven's choice had already ended, he no longer had any misgivings. Furthermore, the human world was invaded by foreign races on a large scale. Even Jiuxuan Heaven's law was broken. Facing the catastrophe, how insignificant was Su Fang. He precisely needed to rapidly increase his strength. But Shi Xian Daozu brought Su Fang to the extraterrestrial chaos to transcend the tribulation, leaving him puzzled. Shi Xian Daozu explained, "In the human world and the chaos void of the region, you can naturally transcend the tribulation too. But you will more or less receive some interference. Transcending the tribulation is also a chance to touch upon the true meaning of Great Tao. In the extraterrestrial chaos, everything has nothing and everything has. The interference received is extremely little. Hence, Master brought you to the extraterrestrial chaos to transcend the tribulation." The chaos had no beginning and no end, endless and boundless. There was nothing, yet everything had an eternal existence. All life, energy, and matter were born from the chaos. Hence, the chaos was heavenly Tao, the entire world. The purpose of a cultivator's cultivation was to seek the truth of the great Tao from nothing in the chaos. Tao Profound Realm was an important realm for cultivators to step into the palace of cultivation. Just like painting, Tao Truth, Tao Lord, and Tao Lord realms were copying others. And Tao Profound Realm was to break away from the shackles of predecessors and draw a great Tao painting scroll that belonged to oneself. Hence, advancing to Tao Profound was extremely important to cultivators. Shi Xian Daozu specially brought Su Fang to the extraterrestrial chaos precisely for this reason. Shi Xian Daozu continued, "Don't be in a hurry to transcend the tribulation either. Cultivate your avatar's life and avatar to the peak state first. It won't be too late to transcend the tribulation with all your strength then." Finished talking, Shi Xian Daozu flicked out a ray of chaos-colored Xian Guang with a finger, instantly enveloping Su Fang, turning into 1,000 feet large light wheel. The inside of the light wheel was an independent spacetime. Not only was spiritual energy abundant, but it was also filled with the essence of Great Tao. The flow of time inside the space was also different from the mystic world. 100 years passed inside was only a year in the mystic world where humans resided. As expected of the top powerhouse of the human race, in the blink of an eye, he created such an astonishing world in the chaos void. It was comparable to the cultivation holy land of the top forces of Jiuxuan. Su Fang sat down cross-legged in the spacetime. Taofather Shi Xian's body quietly slipped into the primordial chaos, transforming into nothingness. Recover first, of course, Daozu Daozu's, Fang's great Tao, cast Yang to use. Yang of the Yang of Yang. Used. The heaven-piercing Blood King Vine also began to wantonly devour the blood chi of the chrysalis race cultivators. Coupled with the Yang reversal art, it rapidly recovered its vitality and energy. Time. The chaotic void outside was silent and unchanging. But 3,000 years had passed inside the independent spacetime. Su Fang's astonishing recovery ability not only recovered his previous exhaustion and injuries to peak condition, but his life aura also became more vigorous. The energy and mana in his Tao Palace and Dharma body also reached peak condition. If he wanted to, he could ascend to the realm of Tao mystery at any time. But now was not the time to do so. He still had to cultivate his various Dharma bodies to a higher level. The Violet Fate Heavenly Dragon he took from Long Tianci could be used to cultivate the Violet Fate Dharma body. The Massacred Dharma body also needed to fuse with Slaughter's heart. Dongxian Daozu gave Su Fang a jade scroll. It contained the method to fuse with Slaughter's heart, as well as the top Yin and Yang Dao of the Eastern Xian divine realm. It could be used to cultivate the Heavenly Tao Dharma body. Also, the Destiny Dharma body was taken from Empyrean Pan Song. It still needed to be fused and cultivated to become his own Destiny Dharma body. The method of cultivating the heavenly mandate celestial body was actually very simple. Celestial Lord Pan Song's heavenly mandate celestial body was cultivated using the heavenly secret life shrinking technique and the heavenly mystery solution as the source of Tao. Su Fang only needed to continue cultivating these two supreme supernatural powers. The mystic Yang Dharma body and the mystic Yellow Dharma body devoured the essence of extreme Yang, as well as pills and spiritual items that contained the power of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. Su Fang's body also used Slaughter's heart to cultivate the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra and raise its level. Just like that, Su Fang was immersed in cultivation, completely forgetting the passage of time. Unknowingly, 100,000 years had passed in this state. Su Fang suddenly opened his eyes. At this time, his power began to surge, engulfing his entire body and his Tao Palace. The life aura in his body began to surge and roar, as if it wanted to tear his body apart. The Tao Palace was also shaking and rolling, as if the entire Tao Palace was about to explode. Qi. Su Fang leaped out of the independent spacetime. A gust of tribulation aura immediately shot out from his body, and the surroundings were instantly set ablaze with tribulation fire. At the same time, a gust of void power erupted from his body, projecting into the surrounding chaos. Some stormy cloud-like waves surged out from the empty chaos, seeping with the terrifying aura of heavenly tribulation. In an instant, they enveloped the chaotic void above Su Fang for 100,000 miles. A tribulation cloud that covers an area of 100,000 miles. This disciple of mine is truly heaven-defying. Shi Xian Daozu appeared from the void at some point. Looking at the shocking tribulation cloud, his eyes shone brightly. When a cultivator underwent a tribulation, they resonated with the chaos to attract the power of the heavenly Tao. For a cultivator, it was a kind of test, a great tribulation, and also a kind of recognition. The size of the tribulation cloud represented a cultivator's cultivation talent, and what kind of achievements they would have in the future. The greater the power of the heavenly tribulation, the harder it was for a cultivator to transcend it. But everything had two sides. Once successfully transcending the tribulation, one's strength would also far surpass ordinary cultivators. When ordinary Tao Lords advanced to Tao Profound Realm, the tribulation cloud area that they could attract was mostly around 10,000 miles. Some peerless geniuses would be a little more astonishing. However, reaching an astonishing area of 100,000 miles, even Shi Xian Daozu had never seen it before. When he advanced to Tao Profound Realm back then, the tribulation cloud he attracted was only close to 90,000 miles in area. Perhaps, this disciple of mine has hopes of taking that step in the future. Unfortunately, the calamity has descended now. The time given to him is already not much. Shi Xian Daozu muttered to himself, letting out a sigh. After transcending this tribulation, I'll be a Tao Profound powerhouse. Su Fang stared at the thick tribulation cloud above. His eyes flickered with a hale and hearty light. He was somewhat nervous in his heart, but also filled with anticipation at the same time. Shi Xian Daozu's voice sounded in Su Fang's mind, "Be careful. What you cultivate is the Jiuxuan Limitless Sutra. The Tao Profound Heavenly Tribulation you attract will target your avatar, transforming into all kinds of different heavenly tribulation attacks. It's best for you to use your various avatars to resist the heavenly tribulation. This way, the benefits to you are the greatest. The power of the heavenly tribulation is 10 times more powerful than the Tao Profound Heavenly Tribulation of ordinary cultivators. Do not be careless." Huff! Shi Xian Daozu's voice was still echoing in Su Fang's mind when the great tribulation in the tribulation cloud also condensed. It was as if a monster suddenly opened its mouth in the thick tribulation cloud. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A streak of crimson-red light of tribulation charged out from within. The light of tribulation arrived in an instant, bringing with it the supreme yang power that could destroy everything, charging above Su Fang. Rumble! The light of tribulation exploded, turning into lightning and thunder fire that filled the sky. It swept towards Su Fang from all directions, wanting to blast Su Fang into smithereens. This heavenly tribulation was targeted at the Xian Yang avatar. Su Fang released the Xian Yang avatar according to Shi Xian Daozu's instructions, and flew up. The Xian Yang avatar used the Yang refinement mystic art, condensing one thought after another. In an instant, that monstrous lightning snake and thunder fire were controlled, and then shattered. There was still a small portion that was forcefully refined into Xian Yang power and absorbed into the avatar. In less than 10 breaths, that seemingly incomparably shocking first heavenly tribulation very quickly collapsed, shattered, and finally disappeared without a trace. Of course, it was not that the power of the heavenly tribulation was not strong enough, but because Su Fang's strength was formidable. His strength had long surpassed the Tao profound realm. No matter how powerful the heavenly tribulation was, it was at most the height of the peak of the lower Tao profound realm. The first heavenly tribulation had just disappeared, and the second heavenly tribulation rolled over in succession. It was clearly different from the first heavenly tribulation. Although it was also a ray of light of tribulation, when it reached above Su Fang, it turned into the 6 great divine powers of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, and lightning. It was like a torrential torrent that surged over. Su Fang had long withdrawn the Xian Yang avatar. The Xian Huang avatar charged out, and actually directly used the avatar to withstand the baptism of the 6 great divine powers. The pagoda phantom kept trembling and shattering under the 6 great divine powers. But it also wore down quite a bit of the heavenly tribulation's power at the same time. There was still an extremely small portion that was absorbed into the avatar. After half an incense stick's time, the second heavenly tribulation finally collapsed. The Xian Huang avatar also looked to be in tatters, and was absorbed into Su Fang's Tao palace. Screech! Another ray of light of tribulation shot out from the thick tribulation clouds. A monstrous murderous aura instantly enveloped all directions. That blood-red light of tribulation turned into a ray of sword light, charging over in an instant. The third heavenly tribulation, killing tribulation. Su Fang's blood evil avatar used the will visualization technique, and a blood-red blade radiance shattered the sword light of the heavenly tribulation. It looked extremely easy. The reason for this was that the blood evil avatar had further integrated with Slaughter's heart, causing the blood evil avatar to become even more powerful. At this moment, it had already reached the level of the 7-star bloody kill divine lord, so it was the easiest to shatter the third heavenly tribulation. The fourth heavenly tribulation was the yin-yang tribulation that targeted the heavenly way avatar. This time, it was 10 times more violent than the previous 3 heavenly tribulations. Su Fang had no choice but to use the formless heavenly wheel and condense the yin-yang heavenly wheel to shatter the heavenly tribulation. Whoosh! Another ray of light of tribulation shot out from the tribulation clouds. This was a ray of gray light of tribulation, and there was a terrifying aura of tribulation within it. In an instant, Su Fang felt as if a calamity that would destroy the heavens and the earth was about to descend. Any life, including him, would not be able to escape this calamity, and would wither and die in that boundless tribulation. Purple Fate Avatar. A purple figure flashed out from Su Fang's Tao Palace. A mysterious purple light shot up into the sky, and an astonishing heavenly wave fate swept out majestically and actually diluted the terrifying aura of tribulation. It was Su Fang's Purple Fate Avatar. Chapter 30:16. Roar. Su Fang's Purple Fate Avatar suddenly opened its mouth and let out a dragon roar. A purple halo of light vibrated out. The majestic fate of the heavenly Tao swept out and collided with the heavenly tribulation. The tribulation light began to shatter layer by layer. The terrifying tribulation also collapsed and disappeared into nothingness. Just like that, the fifth-level heavenly tribulation was resolved by Su Fang. The sixth-level heavenly tribulation targeted the primordial spirit avatar. The tribulation light suddenly descended, catching Su Fang off guard and causing him to fall into the illusion tribulation. In the illusion tribulation, Su Fang experienced countless joys and sorrows, as well as countless reincarnations. He even encountered the destruction of the human race and the death of his loved ones. Everything was so real that it almost caused his primordial spirit consciousness to be trapped and immersed in the illusion tribulation forever. The illusion tribulation was indeed terrifying. Although it didn't seem very dangerous, it was actually more shocking than any other great tribulation. Fortunately, Su Fang had a strong Tao heart and kept his primordial spirit consciousness from being destroyed. In the end, Su Fang's primordial spirit broke free from the illusion tribulation and successfully passed the sixth-level heavenly tribulation. The most shocking was the seventh-level heavenly tribulation. An illusory tribulation light flashed out from the tribulation cloud. It didn't seem as shocking as the other great tribulations, but it made Su Fang nervous and solemn like never before. Destiny tribulation. I didn't expect the seventh-level heavenly tribulation to target my destiny. Destiny tribulation was not only illusory, but it was also an attack on Su Fang's destiny. If he couldn't pass this tribulation, he would be directly obliterated. Like the thunder of destiny, not only would it obliterate Su Fang's physical body and soul, but it would also obliterate all traces of his existence. Even if he wasn't obliterated, if he was injured in the destiny tribulation, his future would be affected unpredictably. Destiny avatar. An illusory figure that was difficult to see with the naked eye and primordial spirit flashed out from Su Fang's Tao Palace. It faced the heavenly tribulation descending from the sky and swept out a mysterious aura with a wave of its hand. The aura of the Tao runes from the life-shrinking technique surged and condensed into an illusory blade in an instant. With the sharp power of destiny, it slashed at the heavenly tribulation. Life blade. Qi. The two forces of fate collided, and the heavenly tribulation shattered layer by layer under the power of the life executioner blade that could sever all fate. However, under the terrifying power of the heavenly tribulation, the life-beheading blade quickly became blurry and disappeared. The remaining power of the heavenly tribulation surged. Lightning of destiny. Lightning shot out from the eyes of the destiny avatar, colliding with the remaining power of the heavens tribulation. Boom. Boom. The collision between the thunder of destiny and the heavenly tribulation made Su Fang feel as though it was a collision of fates. His own fate was fighting against the heavenly Tao, producing the illusion of fate fluctuating and shattering. In the end, the power of the heavenly tribulation was swept away by the power of the lightning of destiny. Just like that, the seventh stage of the heavenly tribulation was passed without any mishap. However, Su Fang also paid a huge price for this. The main reason was that during the seventh heavenly tribulation, Su Fang had used up a lot of his lifespan by activating the heavenly secret life shrinking technique. He had used up about 30% of his lifespan, which made him look like he was about 50 years old. His aura was weak and listless. The loss of lifespan was also a huge test for Su Fang's Tao heart and willpower. Whether it was a mortal or a cultivator, even a peerless existence like the Daozu, to them, the loss of life was the most terrifying thing. Moreover, Su Fang had watched his lifespan rapidly slip away. If it were not for his strong Tao heart, it was very likely that his willpower would have collapsed. Even if he had passed the heavenly tribulation, he would not be able to recover from the setback and his willpower would be depressed. However, Su Fang had also received a huge reward for passing the seventh heavenly tribulation. According to Master, the Great Tribulation of the Tao Profound Realm targets the Dharmakaya. I have cultivated 7 Dharmakayas and have now passed the 7th heavenly tribulation. It should be over by now. Su Fang looked up at the tribulation clouds in the sky. The tribulation clouds were still rolling non-stop, as if something was brewing. Su Fang's Jiuxuan Dao Palace could cultivate 9 Dharmakayas. Now, there were actually only 6 Dharmakayas that truly belonged to him. The blood-evil Dharmakaya was not limited to 9 Dharmakayas. The heavenly tribulation had obviously sensed that Su Fang's Jiuxuan Dao Palace was brewing a great tribulation targeting the other 2 Dharmakayas. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, the heavenly tribulation seemed to have also realized that Su Fang still had 2 Dharmakayas vacant. Only then did it change. The rolling black tribulation clouds turned into colorful auspicious clouds, blooming with dazzling colorful xian guang. An auspicious and peaceful aura descended along with the multicolored light, falling on Su Fang's body and enveloping him. The auspicious and peaceful aura seeped into Su Fang's body. Su Fang's physical body, Dao Palace, and Dharmakayas began to welcome the shattering and impact. His physical body constantly oozed blood, impurities from the placenta emerged from the depths of his body, and waves of pungent and unpleasant stench assailed his nostrils. The Dao Palace was also trembling, and became even more profound and vast amidst the tremors. Traces of primordial qi rapidly formed in the depths of the chaotic vortex. The Dharmakayas were also constantly shattering and reconstructing, and their mana became even more profound, vast, and high-level. After an unknown amount of time, that auspicious and peaceful aura disappeared, and the impact in his body also gradually subsided. His physical body rapidly returned to normal, and his age also returned to 17 years old. Every cell and every strand of hair flickered with spiritual light. He felt that his body had become light as a feather. It wasn't that his body had become lighter, but that the shackles of the outer realm's chaos on him had weakened. The Jiuxuan Dao Palace had clearly increased in size, and the 9 Dharmakaya spaces had also clearly become deeper. The Dharmakayas within were constantly transforming. The primordial qi in the Dao Palace, which was only the size of an egg in the past, had now become the size of a fist. Even the 7 colors Vajra's Dao heart had undergone tremendous changes, becoming simple and unadorned, but even more sturdy. Within the physical body, within the Dao Palace, and inside and outside the Dharmakayas, there was a chaotic heavenly scar everywhere. This meant that Su Fang had finally advanced to become a Dao Profound Realm cultivator. Dao Truth, Dao Lord, Dao Profound Realm cultivators, from just peeking into the gateway of the Great Dao, to grasping some great Dao profundities, they felt that everything was real, and reaching Dao Profound Realm, what they comprehended from their predecessors' experiences in the past started to become specious, a stretch of fog. Then, it was to abandon their predecessors' experiences, break free from their seniors' shackles, and search for the true meaning of the great Tao that belonged to them in this mysterious heavenly Tao. An obvious symbol of Tao Profound Realm cultivators was the heavenly scar. Different from low-level universes' Tao marks and heavenly scars, Tao Profound Realm cultivators' heavenly scar was the symbol of the cultivator's own great Tao. The change in cultivation made Su Fang's strength also undergo a transformation along with it. Su Fang reckoned that with his current state, even if he executed those powerful abhijnas, he could also easily crush peak upper Tao Profound Realm cultivators. If he executed my Lord's 10 directions seal, formless heavenly wheel, this kind of peerless great abhijnas, killing ordinary cultivators who surpassed Tao Profound Realm, was also not something difficult. If he faced Hu Ditian again at this time, even if he possessed the powerful Xian Bao, Su Fang was confident that he could also crush him, absolutely not exceeding 10 breaths of time. This was the difference between Tao Profound cultivators and Tao Lord. Having a great increase in strength once, Su Fang was naturally very happy in his heart. You cultivate for a period of time and stabilize your realm. Shi Xian Daozu's voice transmitted over. Su Fang once again entered the independent spacetime that Shi Xian Daozu created previously, and started to urge the heaven-piercing Blood King Ratan. At the same time, he also cultivated cultivation methods and abhijnas, striving to reach the normal state of lower Tao profound realm as soon as possible. Various abhijnas and dharmakayas could also be able to adapt to his cultivation. Time flew. Unknowingly, Su Fang had spent close to 100,000 years in the independent spacetime. Puff! A commotion came from inside the Tao Palace. It turned out that Heartbreaker Granny, who was treated as a blood pig by Su Fang, being wantonly devoured by Su Fang for so many years, she actually completely exhausted her life and cultivation, turning into a pile of shattered white bones. This powerful elder of the Supreme Three Profound Sects could also be considered to have completely completed his mission. Looks like I have to capture some powerful experts to be blood pigs again. Su Fang smiled nonchalantly, and then sensed something. He discovered that he had already stabilized in the normal state of lower Tao profound realm. Regardless of life or cultivation, his entire person was at the peak state. Hence, Su Fang ended his cultivation, flying out from the independent spacetime. Shi Xian Daozu also appeared from the nothingness and chaos. Divine light swept over Su Fang's body, and he nodded his head in satisfaction. Reached the normal state of lower Tao profound realm so quickly, very good. Even Master is somewhat surprised. Then, Shi Xian Daozu waved his hand and swept out a Xian Guang, slowly flying in front of Su Fang. Master said before in the past, each time you break through a major step, Master will give you a corresponding reward. This is the reward that Master gave you when you advanced to Tao profound realm. Accept it. Su Fang grabbed a jade slip from the Xian Guang. It's actually different from before? Su Fang could not help being stunned. He thought that like before, Shi Xian Daozu would reward him with some ancient pills. Shi Xian Daozu said, inside this jade slip, there is a map that Master condensed with divine abilities. It's not an ordinary map, but a map that leads to a God Ruins. God Ruins map? Shi Xian Daozu explained patiently. In the depths of the outer realm chaos, there are many planes and spacetimes. Some were formed naturally. Some were opened up by foreign race powerhouses using supreme divine abilities. There are also some planes and spacetimes that were shattered due to the clash of powerhouses or other reasons, leaving behind spacetime fragments. Inside, high-level cultivation planes are preserved. This is the God Ruins. This map that Master gave you was discovered by Master back then in the depths of the chaos in order to find a peerless powerhouse who betrayed the human race. It's just a pity that Master is unable to enter inside and can only leave behind a secret mystic door at the periphery of the God Ruins. Hearing up to here, Su Fang asked puzzledly, with Master's strength, you're actually unable to enter too? Shi Xian Daozu said. Master surmises that God Ruins had a powerful restriction set up by that human traitor. If Master were to forcefully enter, the entire God Ruins would automatically be destroyed. The restrictions in the God Ruins were specially created to target human cultivators. Not just Master, any human cultivator is unable to enter inside. Su Fang was shocked. Then why did Master give the map of the God Ruins to this disciple? Pausing, Shi Xian Daozu looked at Su Fang. That is because that human traitor is closely related to you. Related to me? Chapter 30:17. Since the human race can't tolerate this Master, so what if this Master betrays the human race? Su Fang suddenly thought of the scene when he obtained my Master's 10 Directions seal in Su Ruo Valley. That domineering, wild, and unruly voice seemed to rumble in his mind like spring thunder. Su Fang suddenly came to his senses and exclaimed, Master, are you saying that the expert who set up the powerful restriction in the ruins of God is the peerless expert who left behind a thought that contained my Master's 10 Directions seal in Su Ruo Valley? The problematic Jiuxuan limitless scripture also came from this person? That's right. That person's name is 10 Directions Divine Lord. Later on, He betrayed the human world and was chased by several Daozu experts. He fled into the depths of the chaos outside the realm. That ruins of God was his former hiding place. Why would such a peerless expert betray the human race? Why would he spread the problematic Jiuquan limitless scripture to the human world, giving birth to evil and threatening the safety of the human race? The thought that you fused with in Su Ruo Valley contained a peerless divine ability. At the same time, you also obtained some of his memories. With your current strength, you should be able to decipher those memories. When the time comes, you will know the truth. As for the matter of descending into the world, I don't know much. Perhaps all the secrets are in the ruins of God. Master gave me the map of the ruins of God to let me enter? Isn't the restriction in the ruins of God preventing any human cultivator from entering? The restriction in the ruins of God is indeed preventing all human cultivators from entering, but you are different. You cultivate the Jiuquan limitless scripture. Although it is a heaven-bestowed scripture, it originated from the 10 directions divine Lord. Therefore, you can be considered his successor and should be able to enter the ruins of God. After Xuanxin becomes my disciple, I will immediately head to the ruins of God. Who knew Shi Xian Daozu decisively denied it. Master gave you the map not to have you go to the ruins of God right now, but to leave a backup plan. If the human world is invaded by the foreign races, and the human race is in danger, you can take your family and friends to the ruins of God. At the same time, you can explore the secrets of the ruins of God and find the answers. Su Fang's heart sank. The human world will be destroyed by the non-human kind? Let's not talk about this matter. Keep the jade slip well. If it's difficult to survive in the human world, you can use the coordinates in the jade slip to guide you to a profound door that I left behind in the outer realm chaos. After that, you can head to the ruins of God through the profound door. Su Fang finally understood that the reward Shi Xian Daozu gave him was to give him a path of retreat. Then Shi Xian Daozu stared at Su Fang and said earnestly, Su Fang, you have already become a mystic Dao cultivator. With your true strength, you can be considered a strong cultivator in the entire Jiuquan divine realm. Master will not stay by your side to protect you in the future. Now that the Jiuquan heavenly law is broken, you cannot obtain protection from the Jiuquan heavenly law. You have to rely on yourself to walk your path in the future. Yes, Master. Su Fang knelt down and kowtowed respectfully. Shi Xian Daozu looked at Su Fang and sighed in his heart. Master left you this jade slip for another purpose. Perhaps the last hope of the human race is in the ruins of God. Let's go to the Ice Soul Holy Tribe. Shi Xian Daozu's thoughts move. A light wheel enveloped him and Su Fang, and they instantly disappeared from the spot. When Su Fang reappeared, he was already in a world of ice and snow. There was no earth, only snow and ice. The boundless snow seemed to never end. Countless ice blocks floated in the snow. Su Fang used his sensing ability, and was surprised to find that there were actually some life forms living on some huge ice block. They were somewhat similar to the life forms in the human world. However, these life forms were all like ice sculptures. Their bodies were transparent, and their life aura was icy cold. The heavenly law of the entire world of ice and snow was completely different from the mystic world of the human race's divine realm. It made Su Fang feel somewhat out of place, and he was constantly subjected to a kind of nihility repulsive force. This is the world where the Ice Soul Holy Tribe live. It is also a divine realm called the Ice Soul Holy Territory. It is slightly smaller than the Western Profound Divine Realm. However, there are many strong cultivators in the Ice Soul Holy Tribe. There are as many as 3 strong cultivators who are at the same level as Master. Master also sensed that there is a supreme existence that surpasses Master in the Ice Soul Holy Territory. Shi Xian Daozu transmitted his Yuan spirit to Su Fang. There was a trace of reverence in the voice of his Yuan spirit. Such a powerful Ice Soul Holy Tribe. Su Fang was shocked. The Ice Soul Holy Tribe is cold and indifferent by nature. Master accidentally entered the Ice Soul Holy Territory and fought with a Holy Tribe expert. In the end, I gained her recognition with my strength and became friends. It is not just the Ice Soul Holy Tribe. Almost all foreign races are like this. The only thing they respect is strength. Your Dao companion Xuanxin has the Ice Phoenix body. The Ice Soul Holy Territory is suitable for her cultivation. Master was prepared to let her be defeated by that friend. As soon as Shi Xian Daozu finished speaking, he teleported away. He crossed the boundless world of ice and snow and arrived in the air above a vast ice plain. The ice plain was boundless, and there were countless ice cities on it. It was very similar to the human world. Friend of the human race, long time no see. The snowflakes in front of him suddenly rolled and condensed into a woman's face. She smiled at Shi Xian Daozu. Shi Xian Daozu and the woman communicated with their divine senses. Then, under the guidance of a divine aura, they came to the top of a huge ice mountain in the center of the ice plain. The ice mountain was extremely tall. The top of the mountain was shrouded in thick ice mist. It was mysterious and illusory. Su Fang was swept into the ice mist by a divine aura and appeared in an ice palace. After waiting for a month in the ice palace, Su Fang used the last moments to stay by Xuanxin's side. Shi Xian Daozu's thought tore through the air. Su Fang, ancestor Snow of the Ice Soul Holy Tribe, has agreed to accept Xuanxin as a disciple. She will let Xuanxin enter her holy snow palace to cultivate. Master and Ancestor Snow will continue to discuss Tao. Stay in the ice palace for a few days. Su Fang was surprised and overjoyed. He moved Xuanxin out of Fu Yao's cave. Su Fang, take care! Tears flashed through Xuanxin's eyes. Then he was shrouded by Shi Xian Daozu's divine aura and disappeared from the ice palace. Senior sister, Yu and Luo have all left. Xian Xian has also left. It won't be long before the holy maiden also leaves. Su Fang sighed in his heart. His mood suddenly became depressed. The discussion between Shi Xian Daozu and Ancestor Snow of the Ice Soul Holy Tribe would not end in a short time. Su Fang settled down in the ice palace and entered Fu Yao's cave to cultivate. The calamity had already engulfed the human world. Su Fang was fighting for every second he had. He hoped to have the power to protect himself in the calamity. He sat cross-legged in the formation of time inside Fu Yao's cave. A consciousness came into his mind. Since the human race cannot tolerate this master, so what if this master betrays the human race? As soon as Su Fang's consciousness came into contact with some information in the depths of his mind, an extremely familiar yet strange voice rumbled in his mind like spring thunder. Su Fang felt his soul and Tao heart tremble. He almost lost control of his consciousness. Holding on to his Tao heart and will, scenes of memory scrolls unfolded in Su Fang's mind. These memories were the thoughts left behind by the Divine Lord of 10 Directions in the auxiliary tower of Su Ruo Valley. When Su Fang obtained the My Lord of 10 Directions seal, he also obtained a portion of the memories in the thoughts. In the past, Su Fang was too weak and could not see what was in the scrolls. Now that he had advanced to Tao Profound and cultivated Jiuxuan's limitless scripture to the peak of the 4th level, he could barely see some fragments in the scrolls. In the scrolls, a red-robed young man with sharp brows and starry eyes was exuding a violent and ruthless aura. He was wild and unrestrained as he crossed swords with experts again and again. Those experts were all top experts of the human race. Some of them were not unfamiliar to Su Fang. Su Fang also saw the figure of Shi Xian Daozu, but it was just a glimpse. The void shattered, laws collapsed, and mystic worlds were destroyed one after another. Su Fang seemed to have experienced it himself. It made his heart palpitate. His Tao heart and will trembled continuously, almost shattering. The entire scene was very blurry, as if it was a scroll that had faded due to the passage of time. The only thing that Su Fang could see very clearly was the My Lord of 10 Directions seal that the red-robed young man used. Su Fang gained a lot in his heart. There was also the red-robed young man's aura. Su Fang sensed the familiar aura of Jiuxuan's limitless scripture and the majestic primordial energy. You want to kill this master because you want to steal this master's supreme Tao technique, but you use the banner of the righteous path. Since the human race cannot tolerate this master, so what if this master betrays the human race? After an earth-shaking battle, the red-robed young man was swallowed up by the boundless divine power. He gave a roar filled with disbelief and anger. Suddenly the peerless expert in the scroll that killed the red-robed young man seemed to sense something and looked at Su Fang's consciousness. How is this possible? Su Fang was instantly shocked. That expert was just a remnant of a thought, an image in the scroll of memories, but it seemed to have intelligence and could sense the existence of Su Fang's consciousness. Such unfathomable power almost scared Su Fang out of his wit. Boom! There was a thunderous boom in Su Fang's mind. His consciousness was shaken out of the scroll of memories. Su Fang felt a sharp pain in his head. His spirit also became dispirited and listless. He closed his eyes and sat cross-legged for more than 100 years before he returned to normal. The human experts want to steal the Tao technique of the Divine Lord of 10 Directions. They must be after the Jiuxuan's limitless scripture. That's why they want to kill Divine Lord of 10 Directions. That Divine Lord of 10 Directions obviously did not die. He escaped to the primal chaos outside. The reason why Master wants to kill Divine Lord of 10 Directions is obviously not because of the Jiuxuan's limitless scripture. Otherwise, Master would not be tempted even if I have the heaven-bestowed scripture of the Jiuxuan's limitless scripture in my possession. Su Fang speculated. Unfortunately, his cultivation level was still not high enough. He could not obtain too much information from the scroll of memories. Suddenly, the thought that Su Fang left outside Fu Yao's cave sensed a cold and clear voice coming from outside the ice palace. Human cultivators, quickly come out and meet me. Chapter 30:18. Su Fang walked out of the palace and saw a strange woman from the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Although the woman's body was made of flesh and blood like a human's, her skin was crystal clear, as if it was carved out of ice. The woman was wearing a long robe made of snowflakes. Her hair was snow-white, and her face was as if it was carved out of perfection. If such a woman went to the human world, countless men would go crazy for her. It was a pity that this woman exuded an icy aura, and her eyes seemed to be frozen. Su Fang couldn't help but shudder. He couldn't help but want to keep a respectful distance from this woman of the Ice Soul Saint clan. Are you the Tao companion of Ancestor Snow's new disciple? The Ice Soul Holy Clan woman's eyes flashed with cold light, and her voice was crisp and pleasant to the ear as she swept Su Fang. Su Fang nodded and said, "Yes, what's the matter?" "Come with me," the Ice Soul Holy Clan woman said coldly. Su Fang asked in surprise, "Where are we going?" "Don't ask too much. Ancestor Snow wants to see you. Just follow me." The Ice Soul Holy Clan woman flew into the air. "Ancestor Snow wants to see me? Did something happen to Xuanqin?" Su Fang was full of doubts, but he still followed the woman. They flew over many ice cliffs. They came to an ice platform floating in the air behind the ice peak. There was a mysterious door on top of it, and he didn't know where it led to. "This is the token to enter Ancestor Snow's palace. You can enter directly from that mysterious door. You can go by yourself." The Ice Soul Holy Clan woman took out a mysterious ice-like token and handed it to Su Fang, then turned around and left in embarrassment. "Are all the people of the Ice Soul Holy Clan so cold?" Su Fang smiled, grabbed the token, and flew to the ice platform. Buzz, the token automatically released a protective divine aura, enveloping Su Fang, and then disappeared without a trace from the mysterious door. As soon as Su Fang disappeared, the Ice Soul Holy Clan woman and another man appeared outside the ice platform. Looking at the mysterious door, the woman laughed coldly and embarrassedly. Xuanxin, you took away my qualification to enter Sacred Snow Palace, so I'll let your Tao companion die without a burial place. The man from the Ice Soul Holy Clan laughed and said, even the true genius of my clan has a 50% chance of dying after entering the Frost Path. Looking at his aura, that human cultivator has just advanced to profound Tao. Shuyue, you don't need to worry about anything. That human girl named Xian Xian will definitely be rejected by the geniuses of our clan if she enters the Holy Snow Palace through her connections. I will sow discord between them and guarantee that she won't live long in the Holy Snow Palace. Who knew? Xian Daozu brought Xuanxin to the Ice Soul Holy Clan. With Daozu's strength and his friendship with Ancestor Snow naturally agreed and gave Xuanxin a spot among the geniuses of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. This spot belonged to the woman from the Ice Soul Holy Clan. The Ice Soul Holy Clan's Sacred Snow Palace, Sacred Ling Palace, and Sacred Soul Palace were the 3 holy lands that were personally taught by 3 experts of Daozu's level. Every 10 million years, they would select 3 geniuses from the Ice Soul Holy Clan to enter, so the spots were naturally precious. The woman from the Ice Soul Holy Clan was filled with hatred for Xuanxin, but she didn't dare to enter Sacred Snow Palace to find Xuanxin. Therefore, she transferred her hatred and anger to Su Fang. The profound gate that Su Fang entered naturally didn't lead him to Sacred Snow Palace, but to a place where the Ice Soul Holy Clan's cultivators were tested. It was called the Frigid Spiny Path. The Frigid Spiny Path was extremely dangerous. Many Ice Soul Holy Clan cultivators who entered were directly frozen to death and turned into ice statues. Su Fang was a human cultivator, so the difficulty of the Frigid Spiny Path and the shackles he faced were 10 times more difficult than the Ice Soul Holy Clan's cultivators. In the eyes of this man and woman, how could he not die? Jingyu, you used your token to let that human cultivator enter the Frigid Spiny Path. If we find out, it will bring you a lot of trouble. I already have a plan. The woman named Jingyu smiled coldly. Her body suddenly shook and she spat out a mouthful of blood that was as transparent as ice water. Her aura suddenly weakened. When Su Fang entered the profound gate, a spatial distortion suddenly wrapped around him and he was immediately sucked into the twisting formation. Bang! In less than a breath's time, as the formation jumped, Su Fang felt everything return to normal. When he focused his eyes, he found himself in a long corridor of ice that stretched as far as the eye could see. Waves of cold air constantly assaulted him from all directions. Su Fang felt that his body and Tao Palace were about to be frozen stiff. Even his thoughts were somewhat frozen. This is definitely not Sacred Snow Palace. I was tricked by that woman of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Su Fang raised his eyebrows and immediately understood that he had been tricked. Why did that woman of the Ice Soul Holy Clan set me up? Su Fang's heart was full of doubts. He had stayed in the Ice Soul Holy Clan's Ice Palace ever since he arrived and hadn't even seen a single member of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Su Fang speculated that the reason the woman had set him up was obviously because of Xuanxin. No matter what, let's get out of here as soon as possible. Su Fang grabbed a ray of sword qi and landed it on the ice beside him. Unexpectedly, only a white mark appeared on the ice and it didn't shake it in the slightest. There was only one way out, and that was to keep going forward until he found the end of the corridor. Su Fang activated a ray of mysterious yang energy to dispel the cold air around him and slowly flew forward. In less than half an hour, Su Fang suddenly came to a halt. A shadow emerged from the side of the corridor and quickly transformed into a puppet refined from ice. It charged at him as soon as it appeared. Su Fang unleashed a beam of sword qi of slaughter and slashed it at the ice puppet. With Su Fang's current strength, this ray of slaughter sword qi was enough to kill a Tao Lord. However, when it landed on the ice puppet, the puppet's figure only swayed and a crack appeared on its body. Immediately after, it charged at Su Fong with surging cold air. Break! Su Fong blasted a punch-out. The slaughter aura in the bloodlust Dharma body transformed into a series of sword formations, instantly enveloping that puppet and finally grinding it to death. Su Fong kept flying forward. The ice puppets he encountered along the way became more and more. Each puppet's strength was the height of lower Tao profound realm. Furthermore, these ice puppets' bodies were incomparably sturdy, far surpassing the divine bodies of human cultivators. Such tall puppets, Su Fong was not afraid. But he was not clear where this place was, and also did not know how many puppets would be waiting for him. He had no choice but to conceal a portion of his strength. Continuing for 3 days, Su Fong felt that the consumption was incomparably astonishing. But the number of ice puppets did not decrease, and instead became more and more. In the end, they virtually completely blocked the corridor ahead. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At this time, Su Fong sensed that there were several extremely unfamiliar consciousnesses currently paying attention to his every move. These ice puppets seemed to be used to test the cultivators of the Ice Soul Holy Clan. Could it be that Ancestor Snow wants to test my strength? Su Fong felt a burst of astonishment in his heart. Master said that if I want to win the respect of the cultivators of the Ice Soul Holy Clan, then I must have great strength to make them respect me. No matter what purpose they have for me to come here, I will do my best to display my strength. I must not let the experts of the Ice Soul Holy Clan look down on me. The stronger I display my strength, the more stable Xuanxin's position in the Holy Snow Palace will be. Thinking of this, Su Fong's eyes flashed with a resolute look. 9 Suns Heavenly Wheel. Su Fong no longer concealed his strength. Using the power of the mysterious sun, he displayed the shapeless heavenly wheel. 9 divine suns condensed into a wheel of light, emitting an astonishing mysterious sun divine might, rolling towards the ice puppets ahead. Chi, chi, chi. The surrounding ice began to melt. Before the ice puppets could get close to the 9 suns' heavenly wheel, their bodies rapidly melted. Wherever the wheel of light went, nothing was left unscathed. Every time the wheel of light dimmed, Su Fong's condensed consciousnesses would continue to merge into the wheel of light. Just like this, he crushed everything along the way. Although it was not so easy, it was unstoppable and unstoppable. Along the way, Su Fong estimated that he had killed at least 10,000 ice puppets. Finally, he saw the end of the tunnel. The consciousnesses that were paying attention to Su Fong were the experts of the Ice Soul Holy Clan in charge of the Frost Blade Path. When they discovered that Su Fong was not a cultivator of the Ice Soul Holy Clan, they were very surprised at first. When they discovered that Su Fong's cultivation was at the lower stage of the Tao Profound Realm, they all believed that speed would lead to certain death. Who knew that Su Fong would suddenly unleash the 9 suns' heavenly wheel and pass through the first round's test with an unstoppable momentum? Those Ice Soul Holy Clan experts' initial contempt turned into shock. So powerful! The puppets that appeared in the first round of the Frost Blade Path have the same level of strength as the target's cultivation. This human cultivator is only at the lower stage of the Tao Profound Realm. He actually killed so many puppets in one go and passed the first round smoothly. He's clearly a leapfrog. Who is this human cultivator? Our clan has never interacted with the human race. Why would a human cultivator appear in the Frost Blade Path? I heard that a human Daozu expert came to our clan to discuss the Tao with Lord Snow Ancestor. This human cultivator might be that Daozu expert's disciple. The human race is a bottom-tier race in the primal chaos. It's really hard to imagine that there's such a powerful figure among the human cultivators. This person's speed of passing through the first round has far surpassed the record set by our clan's geniuses in the past. He might be able to leave his name on the Frost Sea Ice Cliff. This is just the first round. There are still 2 more rounds behind. This human cultivator is already extremely lucky to not die in the Frost Blade Path. He still wants to leave his name on the Frost Sea ice cliff? Only our clan's most outstanding geniuses have the qualifications to leave their name on the Frost Sea ice cliff. A weak human cultivator, how is it possible? That's right. That human cultivator coincidentally has a divine ability that restrains the puppet. That's why he got lucky. The next 2 rounds won't be that easy. Those 2 rounds must be passed by grasping our clan's supreme Tao arts and divine abilities. It's extremely disadvantageous for human cultivators. Even if he's a leapfrog, he can forget about passing through. Chapter 30:19. At the Frozen Summit. In the depths of the ice and jade palaces, in a remote palace, Xian Xin was sitting with her legs crossed. Whoosh! 3 cultivators of the Ice Soul Holy Clan directly passed through the array and entered the palace. This ice palace was specially assigned to Xuanxin. Outsiders could not enter without a token. However, these 3 people forcibly broke through the barrier and entered the palace. This behavior was extremely rude. Xuanxin could only suppress the anger in his heart. He bowed and said politely, "Xuanxin greets the 3 senior sisters." It turned out that these 3 women of the Ice Soul Holy Clan were the descendants of Ancestor Snow. They were the peerless geniuses of the Ice Soul Holy Clan and had entered the sacred Snow Palace before Xuanxin. The tall woman in the lead raised her eyebrows and shouted coldly, "Lowly human, what qualifications do you have to be my fellow disciple?" The woman on the right snorted disdainfully, "You entered the sacred Snow Palace by relying on connections, and you want to be on the same level as us? Sooner or later, we will drive you out of the sacred Snow Palace." Xuanxin could only swallow his anger and take out thousands of peak best quality pills. This one has just arrived at the sacred Snow Palace and does not know the rules. Please forgive me, senior sisters. This is just a small token of my respect. These pills were all given to Xuanxin by Su Fang. Peak best quality pills were extremely precious in any mystic world of the human world. In order to gain a foothold in the sacred Snow Palace, Xuanxin could only reluctantly take them out. Our Ice Soul Holy Clan feeds the divine beasts with human garbage, but the divine beasts will not eat it. You give us this garbage? The woman on the right sneered. She waved her hand and rolled out a white cold chi on the pills. The 1,000 precious peak best quality pills instantly turned into ice shards and fell to the ground. Xuanxin was furious. He gritted his teeth and asked, "What do you want?" "Take out all the high-grade Ice Soul Chilling Spirit pills that Master gave you." The woman on the left shouted coldly. The Frost Soul Chilling Pellet was the supreme elixir of the Frost Soul Holy Clan. Although these disciples of the sacred Snow Palace were of noble status, they could only get 100 Frost Soul Chilling Pellets every 10,000 years. When Xuanxin first entered sacred Snow Palace, Ancestor Shui rewarded her with 1,000 pills. This was out of consideration for Shi Xiandaozu. Who would have thought that these 3 disciples of sacred Snow Palace actually intended to ask for all of them? Without waiting for Xuanxin's reply, the tall woman waved her hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. She grabbed a storage ring refined from ice jade out of Xuanxin's body. Then, she forcefully erased Xuanxin's consciousness and blood aura from the storage ring. After sensing it for a while, she directly sucked the storage ring into her body through her palm. Xuanxin's strength was far inferior to the 3 of them, and he was also an outsider who had just arrived at Holy Snow Palace. Therefore, he could only let the 3 of them plunder him. Only then did the 3 disciples of Sacred Snow Palace let go of Xuanxin. When they were about to leave, suddenly, a clear and crisp trembling sound came from outside the palace. Oh, it's the trembling sound of the Frost Soul Ice Cliff. It seems that some senior brother or sister broke the previous record in the first stage of the Frost Soul Path and caused the Frost Soul Ice Cliff to tremble. If I can make the Frost Soul Ice Cliff tremble one day, even if it's just once, I'll be satisfied. Don't daydream. Although we are all disciples of Ancestor Shui, how many of us can really make the ice cliff tremble? Only the real peerless geniuses, The supreme figures who will stand proudly at the peak in the future are qualified to make the ice cliff tremble. As for us, it's impossible even in our next lives. The 3 disciples of Sacred Snow Palace talked as they shuttled through the formation. Only Xuanxin was left in the ice palace. His eyes were filled with humiliation, anger, and helplessness. On the south side of the huge ice seal, there was an ice cliff that was as smooth as a mirror. It was hundreds of feet high, and the names of the geniuses of the Ice Soul Divine Clan were carved on it at different heights. This ice cliff was the famous Frost Soul Ice Cliff of the Ice Soul Divine Clan. Only those who passed the test of the Frost Soul Path and set an unprecedented record could leave their names on the ice cliff. At this moment, the ice cliff was blooming with sparkling and sacred brilliance, shining in all directions. A pleasant buzzing sound came from the ice cliff and spread over the whole ice peak. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Several figures arrived one after another and landed on the square in front of the ice cliff. They were all cultivators of the Ice Soul Divine Clan. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. The men were handsome and stern, and the women were almost flawless. Who broke the record of the first stage of the Frost Soul Path? Could it be Senior Sister Bing Pianxian? No, it can't be Senior Sister Bing Pianxian. She left Sacred Snow Palace to look for spiritual items to break through the bottleneck. She hasn't shown up for millions of years. Maybe it's a disciple who has accumulated a lot of experience and broke the previous record. It's just the first stage. It's nothing. If he can set a record in the next 2 stages, it'll be shocking. More than a dozen Ice Soul Divine Clan geniuses were discussing animatedly. 2 figures stood behind these geniuses, looking at the ice cliff with eyes full of shock. These 2 were Ying Yu and the young man whose spot in Sacred Snow Palace was snatched by Xuanxin. There's only that human cultivator in the Frost Soul Path now. Could it be that he broke the record of the first stage? How's that possible? Even if it's him, it'll be difficult for him to pass the next 2 stages. He'll definitely die in the Frost Soul Path. That's right. The last 2 stages of the Frost Spike Dao test my clan's supreme Dao arts and divine abilities. It's impossible for that human cultivator to grasp my clan's Dao arts and divine abilities. The difficulty of wanting to pass is 10 times and above of my clan's geniuses. Could it be that a mere lower Dao profound human cultivator can still defy the heavens? Su Fang walked out of the ice tunnel and stepped directly into the ice palace. Little did he know, as soon as he appeared, streaks of ice-cold sword qi gushed out from all directions. The sword qi that filled the sky intertwined into a huge sword formation, enveloping Su Fang in an instant. Qi qi qi. Su Fang's defense was instantly broken by the sharp and ice-cold sword qi. His body was pierced full of holes by the sword qi like a hornet's nest. Before blood could flow out, it was immediately frozen. It wasn't just his body. When the sharp sword qi rushed into the Dao Palace, the entire Dao Palace seemed to be frozen. Boom! A crimson xian guang gushed out of Su Fang's body and formed a light wheel in an instant. It released scorching profound yang divine might, shattering and melting the surrounding sword qi. However, the sword formation continued to attack Su Fang. Under the attack of the sword formation, the 9 Suns' heavenly wheel was constantly worn down. It quickly shrank to less than 3 meters in size and dimmed. It didn't seem to be able to hold on for long. That human cultivator won't be able to hold on for more than 10 breaths before he'll be killed by the sword formation. Should we save him? Humph, a weak human wants to break into our frost spike path. He's really reckless. This person is a Daozu's disciple after all. Lord Snow Ancestor has a good relationship with that human Daozu. If this person dies in the frost spike path, we won't be able to explain it to Lord Snow Ancestor. Let's save him. Those Ice Soul Holy Clan experts who were secretly watching Su Fang's every move concluded that Su Fang would undoubtedly die. They first snorted disdainfully at Su Fang, then prepared to move Su Fang out of the frost spike path. Who knew that at this moment, a chaotic Xian Guang gushed out of Su Fang's body. When the Nine Suns' heavenly wheel was shattered, it instantly formed a chaotic boundary, enveloping an area of 10 meters around Su Fang and protecting Su Fang in the center. Chi chi chi. The sword formation's attack constantly struck the chaotic boundary. The incomparably swift and fierce sword energy slashed. It could easily kill cultivators who surpassed the limits of Dao Profound. But the moment it came into contact with the boundary around Su Fang, it immediately vanished into nothingness. It turned out that Su Fang displayed a protective divine might with primordial energy to form a boundary. It was as if he was situated in a world. Although that sword formation was incomparably powerful, it was also hard to breach the defense condensed from primordial energy. Su Fang's figure moved like a bolt of lightning. In less than 10 breaths, he arrived at the palace entrance from the depths of the ice palace. That sword energy that filled the sky also disappeared along with it. Su Fang withdrew the defense and took a step out of the door, vanishing from the ice palace. That's heavenly Dao source energy? I didn't expect that what this human cultivator actually cultivates is a supreme heavenly Dao. Furthermore, he cultivated such astonishing primordial energy at the Dao Profound realm. Impressive, this human cultivator is truly impressive. When did human cultivators become so astonishing? Those experts of the Ice Soul Saint clan were all shocked and exclaimed repeatedly. Not only these experts of the Ice Soul Saint clan, but those geniuses of the Ice Soul Saint clan in front of the ice cliff also fell into intense shock and exclaimed in disbelief, following the trembling of the ice cliff and the blossoming of the sacred Xian Guang. On the other hand, Ling Yu and the young man of the Ice Soul Saint clan were dumbfounded. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. More than 100 cultivators of the Ice Soul Saint clan appeared at the bottom of the ice cliff. There were also a few disciples of the sacred Snow Palace among them. Among them, there were 3 women. They were the disciples of the sacred Snow Palace, who had just rushed over from Xuanxin's place. Who is it that can break 2 records in the Frost Spike Path? If it's not Senior Sister Bing Pianxian, then who could it be? No matter who it is, that person will definitely amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and rise up against the heavens. One more stage and it will be over. At that time, we will know who that peerless genius is. Such a person will definitely be a powerful expert in the future. When that person comes out from the Frost Bone Path, we must make friends with him. It just so happens that we have just obtained a lot of Ice Soul Chilling Soul pills. The 3 disciples of the sacred Snow Palace conversed secretly and stared at the ice cliff in front of them without blinking. After a while, more than a dozen cultivators of the Ice Soul Saint clan arrived. All of them were experts of the Ice Soul Saint clan. There was even a big shot of the sacred Snow Palace among them. Ling Yu's eyes were filled with horror when she saw that so many powerful figures had been alarmed. Now that things had gotten out of hand, there was no way to end it. The young man transmitted his spirit sense to comfort her. The 3rd stage is the Illusion Death Divine Mirror. That human cultivator has never cultivated the Dao arts and divine abilities of our clan. It's impossible for him to pass this stage,